What are
Ladies
you
and
drinking
gentlemen,
tonight, Jeremy?
I've got just rum on the rocks. Not a lot, just a little bit,
Okay.
to get me into the mood for stereo and the type of people that we might encounter here tonight. We are dual streaming on YouTube and stereo, which is an application for your phone you can download. If you want to participate, leave us a voice message, ask us a question, you can do so via the stereo app. The goal of today and all the recent shows is to incite discussion, not violence. We don't incite violence over here. We incite discussion. We incite thought. We want to get people in the stereo asking us questions. We are opening ourselves up to the world of random people that exist in stereo as we talk about the normal topics that we do. So the show's not any different. It's just that we want people to chime in and maybe spark some discussion because that makes everything a lot more fun, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love discussing things with people with different points of view. That's the goal here. So let's do it.
Delaney's joining us from remote, as you can see here, and I think it's time to crack open that Coke. Actually, I have to mention something. My agent got in touch with me, and they mentioned that Coca-Cola got in touch with us and said that they don't want us saying that they're sponsoring the stream anymore, probably because of the stuff that we talk about.
Oh,
Yeah, so I can't say that we're
yeah.
sponsored by Coke anymore, but I will drink it still.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not sponsored by Coca-Cola, folks. We're not woke enough for them.
I tried. It's so good that I think I would actually still get sponsorship. Try to go for sponsorship from them. What's up, Stalking Horse in the YouTube chat? Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, Jeremy, you really did try to be less white like Coke asked you to be. So you now identify as black, so you really
mhm.
are trying to be less white.
I don't know what else I can do, really. I mean, if there's anything left on the list that I haven't done to I'd be less white, I don't know what else I could do aside from not identifying as white anymore. Even though I am 100% European, I do identify as black. If anybody has any other ideas, let me know. But anyway, for those listening on stereo, we do live stream this on youtube.com/weekly narrative. If you would rather watch, for those on YouTube, vice versa for stereo. Let's jump into today's topics. We got a few follow-ups from last week. Actually, I guess you could just call them recurring themes or recurring stories here on the weekly narrative. We've talked about the black on Asian violence. We're trying to get to the root of the sharp increase in black on Asian violence and why black people all of a sudden seem to hate Asians. And we've got a couple follow-ups from stories that we've been following. The first one from abcnews.com. This is one that Delaney found. Thank you, Delaney. This is a follow-up
You're
to
welcome.
the one that we showed on stream 2 or 3 streams ago of the guy stomping on the head of the lady outside of the hotel. Is that correct, Delaney?
Yeah, it's either like a fancy apartment building or a hotel. It's a fancy building in New York City close to Times Square.
That's right. Yeah, it's an apartment building. All right. Do you want to highlight this? You want to go through the article, summarize it?
Okay. Yeah, so it says two New York City apartment building workers have been fired for failing to help an Asian American woman, as she was being violently attacked on the sidewalk outside. The building's management company. The surveillance video of the March 29th attack near Times Square showed that the doorman didn't step outside and approach the woman until more than a minute after the violence stopped and the assailant walked away. And the men watched from the lobby as 65-year-old Vilma Kari was repeatedly kicked and stomped, the video showed. One of them closed the building's door as Carrie lay on the ground seconds after the attack ended. Damn, that's cold.
Yeah. Well,
Which, I mean, that's something that we talked about. We're like, why did they close the door? Why didn't anybody go out there and help her? And I think
well, he ended up
think
getting
that he
fired,
talked
right?
about that. Yeah, so the guy that didn't end up helping her ended up getting fired. It says the building's management company, the Brodsky organization, initially suspended the doorman pending an investigation. That investigation was completed on Tuesday as the doorman was fired.
See,
It
I
says
think
while the full video, go ahead,
that's BS. I think that's
go ahead,
BS
Jeremy.
because these security guards, pay attention to security at like a Best Buy or something like that, or security anywhere else, even at a nightclub, sometimes if you even touch a customer, that's grounds for getting fired. So, and that is a really tough spot for security guard to be in. You know what I mean? If you're watching some guy, he's crazy enough, he's violent enough to be stomping on somebody's head, Do you really want to intervene in that?
Hmm.
I mean, yes, there's probably
No.
some deterrence you could do, but if in the back of your head you're thinking, if I even touch this guy, I'm probably going to get fired. You're more likely to
Hmm.
just sit and be a bystander, even though you're actually hired to be security for that venue. But again,
Hmm.
we've seen people get fired from like Best Buy for chasing customers outside of the store, touching customers, things like that. So I mean, it's a really tough, it's kind of a lose-lose situation, to be honest, for the security
Oh
guard
yeah,
there.
it
He probably would
definitely
have gotten fired
is.
regardless, because if he touched the black guy, then it would have been, whoa, black guy gets assaulted outside of a hotel. instead of
Right?
instead of an Asian woman gets her head kicked in. It's I just wanted to
Hmm.
point out that it'd be a really tough spot to be in for that guy.
Yeah, and I get it, but at the same time, it's like more like me, I wouldn't be able to sit by and just watch this old lady get stomped on like that. Like that's just me. I would at least like yell at the dude and be like, "Hey, stop that! Don't do that!" Or Sharkeisha, don't
You'd think he
hit her.
could at least mace him or something, like taser him, mace him, some kind of ranged attack. Use a bow and
Mhm.
arrow, whatever you got, cast a spell, something.
Cast a spell. I love it.
What's up, Arian? We got Arian in
Uh,
chat, Dari, Jesse Anderson, and Holly, of course. Holly's dual viewing from Stereo and YouTube. Appreciate that, Holly. Trying to pump up the numbers. I like it. That's what we call
yeah,
participation
she's our
here.
biggest fan, so she better do it.
Let's I heard a stereo
So
comment come in. Let me hit that real quick.
okay. All right.
You know what's really racist? The spelling of the word Asian. It's awfully close to alien. Why is that?
That's true. And I was thinking
I don't
about this.
know.
I was thinking about this previously, and I think we need to think of a different name for this because Asian is too broad of a term. Asian. I mean, think about it.
It's
Asian
true.
includes Russians. It includes, Chinese, Indians. It's too broad. We need to come up with a better classification for these people to make sure that we're not targeting for their nationality or their geographical origins because of their race. Because Asian, I don't. To me, it's not even a race.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, there's just so many demographics that can fall into the Asian category. So yeah, it's a bit too broad. Do
Asian is
you want me
basically
to keep
human
going in the
because we
article?
are 70% of the world, says Arian. Okay, yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
that's a good point.
that is true. You just make it the majority. Here's Skulker.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Oh yeah, what's up, Skulker? We're doing great,
What's
man.
up?
Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, we're doing awesome.
Yeah,
Glad to
so
have you.
okay, yeah. If there's anything left to cover in the article, we'll jump back to it.
Okay, it says while the full lobby video shows that one assailant had departed, the doorman emerged to assist the victim and flag down NYPD vehicle. It is clear that required emergency of safety protocols were not followed, said the company in a statement. So I mean, like after the guy left, he did the right thing and flagged down emergency services, but still, it's like I think he could have done more. I mean, personally,
Again.
I would have like yelled at the dude.
Again, I think the Brodsky organization or whoever hired that guy, they were going to fire him either way. I mean, they said the safety protocols
Yeah.
were not followed. Yeah, well, guess what? If he intervened, they would have said the exact same thing. Safety protocols were not followed. So, but it's good to
Yeah.
know that
Says
they
the-
at least followed up on that.
It says the Brodsky organization also pledged to give all building service employees training on emergency response protocols, anti-bias awareness, and bystander intervention.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
so at least they're learning. I mean, at least they're learning about like in training them to do bystander intervention because like I said, if it was me, because I've had this happen to me before where people have like gotten into fights in public spaces, and I know that if I get intervened, I'm probably going to get my ass beat because I'm a tiny girl.
But here, why did
So
they
what I
give him
usually do is I don't
anti-bias
pull up-
awareness?
I don't know. The whole anti-bias awareness is stupid, but the bystander intervention, I think that's necessary personally. Because there's ways to diffuse a situation or to get people to stop doing something without like getting in the middle of it physically. I personally like I said I've seen fights happen, and instead of like jumping in and intervening physically because I know I'm going to probably get hurt, I usually will just start yelling at them and be like, "You're embarrassing. What are you doing? Stop doing that." And usually they stop. They're like, "What? What are you doing yelling at me?" I'm like, "You're just being stupid. Like stop fighting somebody in public. Like don't be an idiot." But again, this guy clearly had something wrong with him if he's going to attack a, what is she, like 65-year-old little Filipino woman? Come on, dude.
Listen to this. In the next paragraph, they said the Dormans Union SEIU 32 BJ said the workers are challenging their terminations under a grievance process outlined in their collective bargaining statement, and then the president of the union came out and said, "quote We must root out systemic racism in all its forms." What? What does that have to do with you firing a guy? It has
Right?
nothing to
That's
do.
what
But see, that's exactly my point. Is no matter what happens, anytime it's involving like a black dude attacking somebody or whatever it is, anything that can potentially involve a racism argument, everyone just goes into straight up emergency response mode where it's all right, scripted response for bust out the racism response playbook, and then they say, what did they say previously? They say emergency protocols were not followed. We must root out racism in all its forms. They're just robots. They just have every corporate organization or union or whatever it is. They all have these responses. Anytime something happens, they just go into robot mode.
Yeah, that's one reason I wanted to read this article, because I read this whole thing about the union saying like we want to root out racism in all forms, and then it says we believe that all union workers, especially workers of color who are often the subject of unfair treatment on the job, have a right to fair process as outlined in their contract. What? Okay, this guy did something wrong. He got fired, and now they're claiming it was because of racism. I'm kind of confused at where the racism
didn't happen
is.
outside
Like,
the door. The racism happened inside the door. That's the moral of the story, I think. Stomping on an Asian lady's head is not racism, but not responding to that's totally racist.
It says, and then the article goes on. It says the union previously said that the doorman waited until the attacker walked away to check on Carey and flag down a nearby patrol car because they thought he had a knife. So that explains why they didn't respond right away and like go out there and help her, because they didn't want to get stabbed, which I get, but the guy didn't have a knife. So yeah, I wouldn't go out there either if he had a knife, but closing the door and locking it is not a solution either. Like, poor lady.
Let's see. Stalking Horse in YouTube chat says, I'm a proud Occidental, which is the opposite of Oriental. Arian wants you. Arian says, Delaney, come on, how can you help in a fight? Give us your bench press numbers.
I don't bench. That's the problem. That's why I don't get into fights.
She's only masculine in the head, okay? She's not masculine in reality.
Well, that's why I went and said, like, I don't get in the middle of fights. I stand outside and yell at them, and hopefully they listen to me and stop fighting. Sharkeisha, don't hit her.
Dari says, you do realize the guy kicking the lady in the head was out on parole after being in prison for 17 years for killing his mother. No, I did not know that, but that definitely puts a different angle in the story.
Well, that's what they talked about right here in the article. It says Brandon Elliott, a 38-year-old parolee convict of killing his mother nearly 2 decades ago, was charged with an assault and attempted assault and as hate crimes. He is scheduled to be arraigned on felony indictment on April 21st. His lawyers have urged the public to reserve judgment until all facts are presented in court. What facts? Like, did he have a reason to attack this 65-year-old Filipino? What was the reason? Like, was he trying to rob her, or did he just not like Filipinos and wanted to curb stomp a little old lady?
I do know one thing for sure. I know we have 4 comments lined up in stereo.
Okay, let's get through them.
Let's hit one from Genevieve.
Hey, Weekly. Hey, Young. I hope you guys are enjoying your show so far. I think the topic is really interesting. Personally, I don't think leftism is a mental illness. I don't identify with either party politically. I really don't care too much about politics because, let's face it, at least I choose to face the reality that it's all rigged and they're just using political parties at this point to keep us divided as a nation. And the real mental illness is the elites of the world and how they run things. That's the real threat. It's not us against each other. It's us against them, us being us, the general population, and then them being the elites of the world that run literally everything. So
I like that. I think Genevieve is an alt-centrist.
Very good points.
She doesn't know it yet.
Oh yeah, she definitely is.
She's an alt
Yeah,
centrist.
but
sure.
I would say that like generally speaking, like leftism is, we've outlined this in previous streams before where we talk about there are a lot of things that the left and the right, both sides like do these things, but we've talked about these categories of mental illness and these things that people with mental illness tend to do and how they choose to view the world. And so we like to talk about these things. So thank you for your comment. That was awesome. Keep listening to us because we kind of are in the same boat as you, where we hate both sides, and both sides have become just stupid, and we are pawns in the game of that the elites are playing right now. So, and a lot of people with the mental illness are just loving being a pawn right now.
Yeah, for those who are listening on YouTube and don't see the stereo title of the stream, this title of the stereo stream is "Leftism is a Mental Illness." The Leftism is a Mental Illness Show. # politics. # debate us. # no retards. So it's trying to be provocative, but she's correct, and the reason why we do that is half provocative, half reality, because we've gone over so many studies. Scientific data that shows high correlation with leftism and ideologically left-leaning people, and massive differences in mental illness and mental health. So that's it's a science-based statement, but it's also a provocative statement.
Right. Yeah, very. That's why we're doing it. We want to bait you guys in. Come and listen to us. We're interesting.
Dave MCL in YouTube chat says, like Chelsea Handler said about the Chauvin trial, we've seen the video. We don't need a trial. Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah. See, now it's like a post-justice era that we're going into now, where we've seen the video. We don't need to have a trial, and which is exactly what she said. She said, "Why are we even having a trial? We've seen it. We've seen him kill." George Floyd. So a little scary. But again,
I saw her post that the other day. I was just like, wow, okay. I guess the whole idea of a fair trial is just out the window with these people.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that trial later, because I've been watching that, and I've been watching some of the reactions to it. People are basically starting to incite violence already if their predicted outcome isn't. If their desired outcome isn't reached with that trial, they're already threatening violence nationwide, which is very interesting. That they're not getting banned off Twitter or anything, even though it's clear incitement of violence. We got a comment here from Sus.
You know, I just want to say I agree with absolutely everything that you guys have been saying, and like you guys say it perfectly. Like, you sum it up absolutely perfectly. So, I just want to say okay. Thank you for sharing your views on this, because it's kind of nice to know that people think the same way.
That was awesome.
I can't. That's why I like this, because it walks a very thin line between trolling and reality. I don't know which is which, but I enjoyed it.
That was awesome. Thank you for the compliment, and yeah, we're here to kind of balance out what's going on in the media and all the voices that are just kind of saying the same thing. We're here to kind of go against the mob and go against what people are saying. So yeah, thank you for the compliment. Keep listening. And if you want to see us and look at us, we also dual stream on YouTube. We're youtube.com/weeklynarrative. If you want to give us a subscribe over there as well, we'll always appreciate that.
She is a lesbian, but she's still easy on the eyes, so you can still simp for her if you want. That's yeah.
Well, and you're easy on the eyes too, Jeremy. So don't forget that.
Don't tell guys that.
For all the girls out there.
Don't tell guys that.
Well, for all the ladies that might be listening.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, for the three women that use these platforms.
He's the straight male eye candy for all the straight girls out there. I'm the eye candy for the simp men and all the other lesbians out there.
All right, Genevieve's
the other
back.
two.
Genevieve's got follow up.
And this whole narrative of racism and all of that, it's propaganda. Mainstream media is fake news. The mainstream narrative, all propaganda to push an agenda, to push the agenda of taking our rights away, keeping us divided as a nation and on a worldwide platform, to push us into a war against each other instead of against the real enemy, which is evil itself, that is perpetuated and celebrated by the elites of the world. I promise, guys, the truth is out there, but you're never going to find it in the mainstream.
Hell yeah, girl. I love that.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Clap to you, girl, right? Exactly. You're so correct on that. The mainstream is so fake, is so bad, and people just suck it down like it's the biggest glass of Kool-Aid that has the most sugar in it that they've ever had. So yeah, I'm glad that you are open and aware of that.
I was thinking about this today, and I'm getting exhaustion, mental exhaustion from having to talk about this stuff. Like the racism attacks, it's so low IQ. Even just these stories, they reside in a space, in the space-time continuum, in such a low IQ area that I don't even like talking about them. But, I mean, that's what we have to do to point out the strategies that they're using to divide people. The strategies that they're using to keep you in a state of mental illness. The strategies that they're using to keep us in a divisive state instead of a unifying state, which is exactly what she's saying, and that's what these things are meant to do. We've gone over studies where I think just a couple weeks ago where that show definitively in data, scientifically, that people who consume the news on the left, they feel negative emotions from that, and they take action based on those negative emotions. And the mainstream media knows that these are the basic triggers. I mean, this is really basic psychology stuff, and they keep pushing those buttons, pumping those fears, and that's how they make their money. So we're here to, we point that out, but I am exhausted by it, and I personally, I'm way so far advanced beyond just trying to even figure out what the narratives are, what the propaganda is. I see it all like the Matrix, personally myself, but I try to think of it as me doing a service to the public by coming out and trying to point out these things in a rational, balanced manner. I'm not out here just, dumping on the left. I take dumps on the right too every time I can. It's just there's a side where there's a lot more opportunities. That's all. So I'm in a very strange spot personally in my relationship to these narratives and to these stories, and I'm trying to figure out where really I belong and where this show belongs.
Yeah, and Bill in our YouTube chat said divide and conquer, and he's absolutely true about that. They want us divided. It's easier for them to come in and conquer and control all of us if we're all divided and we all hate each other for skin color, sexuality, whatever it may be, whatever ism is, whatever it is. It's easier to control the masses if you are in the mental headspace of like, I hate everybody.
I actually found a really amazing app online today. It's called Ground News. Ground News. If you guys aren't aware of Ground News, holy smokes, highly recommend checking out Ground News. It's a news site that tracks the bias of other news sites, and you can look up a particular story and you can see if the left is covering it, if the right is covering it. It's incredible. And one of the other nifty features that they have on there is the ability for you to plug your Twitter profile into it, and it will tell you, based on analysis of your profile, everything you've tweeted, everything you've commented on, all the profiles you've talked to, all the profiles you've interacted with, how balanced you are, or how much of the news you consume on the left versus the right. And I brought this, I bookmarked this today because I did it on my own profile. And the results were so insane that I have to show this to you, and I have to tell you guys that when I say alt-centrist, when I talk about being, a centrist and looking at all sides and being balanced, I can just say that. It's easy for anyone to just say that, but now I have actual data to show you exactly how balanced or unbalanced I am. And let me show you that now. This is the results of my personal profile on Ground News analysis of where I am politically. You guys think I'm a centrist?
Okay.
Now you know for sure. I am almost statistically perfectly a centrist, okay? This is my distribution of the news that I consume. 35% left, 31% center, 34% right. Literally only 3% off of a perfect 33 33 distribution of balanced news. So
Dang.
show me any other news source on the entire planet that is more equally distributed than that, and I will be shocked. So you guys know for sure that you're getting what is actually an objective, centrist perspective from this show, from the Weekly Narrative, from the Alt Centrist podcast. And you can see who I interact with the most on the right, which is Scott Adams, Jack Murphy, and James from, I forgot what his last name is, but he's a professor in Portland, I believe. Anyway, I don't think it gets any more balanced than that, guys. So you know I'm not BSing you. I'm not just saying I'm a centrist, but then I'll just consume nothing but right-wing media. I am almost perfectly balanced among all three on the spectrum. So I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to show you guys that. We got a bunch of comments pouring in right now. Yes, James Lindsay. Thank you. Synergy in the YouTube chat. Thank you for that, James Lindsay. Let's go. We got a bunch from Genevieve, and we got one from Dave Spencer. Let's hit Dave Spencer. He's a new guy.
So here is my point of view on the left, okay?
Yes.
There are things that they preach, but they do not follow. For instance, inclusion, right? Inclusion. This is a word they use a lot. Diversity. This is a word they use a lot. Let me ask you guys a question, an honest question. How many Christian pro-life conservative assistants do you think Barbra Streisand ever hired in her life? I think it's 0. And if she had any, she told them to shut them up.
Right?
Yes. So the hypocrisy argument is basically what I would consider kind of near or step 1 or maybe step 2 of the spectrum of the process you begin to realize, that the left is. How advanced are you in understanding the left's nature? That's kind of like step 1 or step 2. We talk about that all the time here. It's still played out, the hypocrisy of the left. And that is what we call the language war. They don't actually use the ideas of inclusion, diversity. They just use the words as weapons. Go ahead, Delaney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say he's very, very right about that. I know several people that, especially in like the LGBT community, especially that T, they try to be, they get included into these, groups on social media that are geared for the Ts, the trannies out there. And because they're not total leftists and think outside the box and are on the more conservative leaning scale, they end up getting kicked out of these spaces and told that their views are transphobic or whatever ismist you want to put onto them. And it's like, but I am one of you. I just have a different idea, a different thought process. So what about the diversity of thought? That is what is not being included in a lot of these groups.
Yeah, alphabet cult, as Athenian says in chat. It's a great way to put it. It is definitely a cult. Although I am against the malicious use of that word because I don't think cult is inherently bad, but I would definitely classify it as a cult. Let's see.
We call them the spaghetti people.
Stalking Horse says, if the Streisand hired a Christian assistant, it would be the ultimate Streisand effect. All right.
Probably turn into Mecha Streisand.
So we got a bunch of comments lining up in stereo, and we got people are starting to listen here. We want to go through the stereo rules for this show. We prioritize disagreements. So here's we call it this 3 strikes rule. If you agree, we do love to hear your agreements. We appreciate all of you chiming in, saying that you agree with what we're saying, but we want to try to prioritize disagreements and debates. So if you generally just agree with everything we're saying, we're probably not going to read all of your comments. And we want to, again, put people who are disagreeing at the front of the line. I see one in here from Bill. Is that Bill from All Minus One? I don't know. Let's hit it.
So,
yes, it is.
We're talking divide and conquer. We're talking about the narratives and all of this and how it works and what's going on. And what it all comes back to is what Jeremy likes to generally break it down to is that masculine and feminine, because it's about emotions. And so if it's about emotions, if it's about fear, which is the greatest emotion to drive and motivate people, if it's about fear, that's why we get all the racial tensions and the divide and conquer. And it is the fear narrative that they must come in, the government or whomever it may be, the elites, and they must control things and take over because, well, you're not smart enough to do it yourself, and neither is anybody else apparently. So that's why they use divide and conquer to build fear.
There it is.
Absolutely.
That's correct. Yeah, and the way that I like to frame it is that everything in life, even though as adults we see these big systems, big governments, global economies and things like that, nothing is ever more complex, psychologically speaking, than a children's school ground, recess playground. Okay, all of the psychology that you need to understand life and humans is present at the recess on a playground at school, and it never gets any more advanced. And the basic premises of fear, masculine versus feminine behaviors, and psychological trends, it's just continued on into adulthood, continued on to be abused by media corporations, abused by politicians, and don't overcomplicate these things. Exactly like Bill said, it's all really boils down to masculine versus feminine. Feminine being, I'm so afraid we have to have lockdowns for COVID. Get the vaccine. Why aren't you wearing a mask? Things like that is feminine because they value safety and fear over meritocracy and masculine traits. So thank you for that, Bill. Glad to see you on stereo. We had fun over on Bill's stream on Friday, all minus the ends justify the memes. Check that out, the channel anyway.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
It was a drinking stream with a bunch of people. That's all you need to know about that one. I think that stream got deleted, so you won't see that, but you'll find a lot of other videos on there. Zippy L. Eglantine.
You guys don't have an effing clue what you're talking about. You do not know what you guys are on about. You have not studied Marxism. You do not know watch more documentaries. Come back. Get out of your bubble. You're insane.
See,
we're the insane one.
This is the interesting part. Nobody ever mentioned Marxism. We didn't even say the word Marxism once. Where did he get that from? We were just talking about black on Asian violence, and then all of a sudden this guy mentions Marxism. I find that interesting, and I would like Zippy to comment and mention. Maybe he can educate us. I mean, that's why we're here. This is a open discussion. We want you to tell us about Marxism. Tell us why we're wrong. Instead of saying you're wrong, tell us why we're wrong, because we would appreciate that. I like the back and forth.
Yeah, like Jeremy said, we're not talking about Marxism. We're talking about leftism. Two different things. And I mean, here you go, trying to read our thoughts and trying to read what we're talking about without even actually listening to what we have to say. So that's actually a sign of mental illness that we highlighted a few streams ago. So
I was going to wait at least another message or two before I call him mentally ill. I don't want to scare him away. Oh, jeez. So harsh.
I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Mike, I think this is.
I only know one side that says it's mostly peaceful protest while people are burning alive inside a building. They change the definitions of words in real time as a politician decides that they mean something different. It's I've never seen the right do that, at least not yet.
Boom.
We had a bunch of moral grandstanders and Bible thumpers in the 90s, but you can't say you worship science while you're pro-abortion and basically murdering babies.
And pro-fat.
And telling us that it's just a bunch of cells. So, I don't really see the right doing that. And the left's just straight up out of control.
It's a great point, yeah. Tell me how pro-science, political ideology that promotes fat and obesity during a pandemic that only kills fat people and old people. How science-based is that? Speaking of pandemics, we've got, I believe this is Nick, maybe from last week. Let's go to our UK correspondent for COVID, hopefully.
Oh my God, this is a bit off topic. Hi guys, you might remember me, Ms. Moneypenny. We spoke last week about COVID.
Yes, ma'am. We remember you.
What is the young degenerate lesbian drinking? She has got the largest hip flask I have ever seen. If that is straight whiskey, she's doing really well to be sitting up straight. I have never seen a hip flask for alcohol quite as large as that mammoth great big silver shiny thing
I haven't
that
seen it.
she is sucking from.
Hold it up, Delaney. I haven't seen it yet, actually.
It's a 40-ounce Yeti that my dad got me for Christmas,
holy
and
smokes,
don't
okay,
worry,
jeez.
don't worry, Nick. It's not whiskey, it's water. I drink lots of water because I like to intake as much water as I possibly can.
Stay hydrated. Right.
Absolutely.
Welcome
Why do you
back.
think this skin looks so good?
Welcome back, by the way. Of course, we remember you. Let's see.
course.
Let's get another one from Bill, and then we'll jump to David.
All right, so yes, the stream got privated. That was over at the Ends Justify the Memes, and I also do content on All Minus One. So thank you, Jeremy, for shouting that out, and thank you for being there. And we'll see you guys at the end of the month on the Ends Justify the Memes, which will not be privated because it will not get spicy with our other very spicy guests. So, anyways, guys, I won't call back in. I'll let other people talk, but appreciate the shout out, and as usual, I try to watch the Tuesday night stream.
Free
So
to shill.
take care. See you after a while.
Free to shill on
Thank you,
this
Bill.
show,
We
Bill.
love you.
Yeah, on a scale from jalapeno to ghost pepper, I think that was about a habanero on spice level, so we had to private it.
Oh, it was definitely pretty dang spicy. Oh yeah, that was a spicy one for sure.
Where'd Zippy go? I want Zippy to comment. Here's David.
All right, one more of you. And listen, I'm not trying to agree with you. I'm not. It's just this is the way I feel. This is the way I see things. This is the way I have experienced life. Like, for instance, I believe that the university system, the college system, is a left-making machine. Why? What does it do? You regurgitate back to the professor everything he wants you to throw up back at him or her, and you get a little gold star, and you get a little piece of paper, and you get a good job. And those who don't regurgitate back the Darwinism, the crazy thoughts of you know, oh shit, I can't think of the right word, that there's no absolute truth.
Subjectivity.
You're saying that very absolutely, though. Anyways, when you complete that system.
Yes, subjectivity. You're correct. You're on the pipeline, my friend. You were in the pipeline to the alt-right. You're going to be extreme. You're going to be radicalized by our extreme podcast by listening to facts and logic and rationality. So you better turn away now before it's too late and you find yourself, wanting to gas Jews or something like that. Because apparently that's what ends up happening if you don't follow the narrative. Let's see. Let me. I think we got. Okay, we got. We'll do another one from Monty Penny here, our UK correspondent, and then we'll go into our next story.
Hey, so who's talking about Marxism? I know it's meant to be leftism, but unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, I studied Marxism at university for one of my political modules. And I was one of the most left-wing of left universities in the United Kingdom. So much so that the Socialist Workers' Party was the predominant party on campus. I've got many stories to tell. But then the show's not about Marxism.
Yeah,
right?
Kind of is. Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it actually really kind of is about Marxism, but we're looking at Marxism from kind of the second and third order effects, like this story right here. You guys heard about the two girls carjacking and killing the Uber Eats driver in D.C., right? Well, guess what they're going to get? You think they're going to get life in prison? Do you think they're going to get 10 years? Or do you think they're going to reach a plea deal and not go to prison at all? They're going to be held in, it sounds like juvenile detention center, potentially, until the age of 21, but they're not going to prison at all. So you're free to kill people. This is, I think, what Marxism is meant to do. It's really social justice, which is kind of a watered-down manifestation of Marxism, right? It's not about justice. It's about justice with some modifiers, depending on what the race is involved, how oppressed you are, things like that. So, yeah, again, in a way, this kind of is about Marxism. Two girls aged 13 and 15 who were charged with the murder and carjacking of Muhammad Anwar, 66 years old, in Washington, D.C., have reportedly reached a plea deal. On Monday, the teens are said to have reached a deal with prosecutors that would ensure they won't be held past the age of 21, nor be placed in a prison facility. So you're basically getting away with murder.
Yeah, this makes me sad. They should be in prison. I'm sorry. That's not okay.
Yeah, we saw, if you saw the video of this, which is readily available on the internet, you can find this. You see you see them in the car, stealing the car. You see the car hitting multiple objects before rushing to the end of a street and then flipping over. Now, when the camera catches up with the car, the two girls get out. They have no regard for the guy's life whatsoever. They don't care at all. They're actually a lot more concerned about the phone that they left in the car. So you can see these are very antisocial, very mentally ill people who are clearly raised in households that were not suited for American society, and yet they will not be punished. So that's American justice system for you. Meanwhile, you've got guys like Kyle Rittenhouse, who was a clear case of self-defense. He's facing how many months long worth of trials and then inevitable prison sentence. Everyone wants to hang this kid for self-defense. Meanwhile, these two chicks kill a guy basically in cold blood, and they don't even get prison.
Right.
So
yeah, they don't even get a slap on the wrist. They'll probably be regarded as like heroes in certain regards to how mentally unstable a lot of people are nowadays. Like this guy who's like a Pakistani immigrant, sole breadwinner of his house, who was just going to work to make money for his family, gets killed, and these girls who killed him get nothing. Like, what about the justice for this guy? Like, this guy didn't deserve this at all. Poor thing.
No, we don't live in a world where, again, this is what social justice is, because justice does not need a modifier. Justice doesn't need a prefix. But it does if you're a leftist, if you're a Marxist, because justice needs to be applied differently depending on, again, how oppressed a certain party is, what race a certain party is, whatever kind of group we can put them into. That modifies the level of justice that we apply to them. And in this particular case, that we've decided that because these girls are black, that no prison, won't be tried as adults, nothing. So that's the world you live in today, folks. We got a comment here from Inspire. Let's hit that.
See, so I'm gonna comment on that situation. Whenever they come to a plea deal, and something like that was already on, we had on, we all saw that on social media. There's more to the situation. Because whenever they have concrete evidence on you, or they just really got you, they don't come. Listen, the prosecutors never come to a plea deal if they got you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
100%. There is nothing that they bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? Even the attorney can't. The attorney who's actually representing them, that situation is bigger than what we think. So you got to look behind the scenes.
I like that, actually. I think he's got a great point. If there's one thing we've learned in the last 2 years, it's that video does not tell us the whole truth. Look at the Covington kids. Look at George Floyd. Look at any other basically major incident caught on video. Like the Las Vegas shooting. Jesus. Any video you've seen, really, it's not the full story. And I talked about this last week about how the full truth is never really actually accessible anyway. So I'm actually going to agree with this guy. I'm going to agree with Inspire and say that there likely is something going on behind the scenes. And I'm not so partisan that I'm just going to straight up say, no, it's because they're black. I think that's actually a reasonable point of view.
I mean, yeah, it's reasonable. I'm not going to sit there and attribute like their skin color to it. But I'm sure that, they had other reasons to want to carjack this guy, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that them doing this action caused this hardworking man to get killed for no reason. Because these two girls that aren't even legally allowed to be driving decided to try to carjack him and take his car and take the mode of transportation to make money. I don't know.
And
it's weird.
Unfortunately, because of the nature of the truth and how it's really not accessible, as I mentioned, there's no information in these articles, in these stories, about how or why a plea deal was reached. There's no details that might help us understand that. Really, again, going back to what one of the first callers said, the point of this kind of stuff, whether it's the reporting of the actual incident itself or the reporting of the fact that they're getting off, quote unquote, getting off with it, it's to make people angry. And if you're angry, it means they win. So I think it could be intentional that they're leaving that information out that will lead you to a rational explanation of why they get a plea deal. They leave that out. I mean, it's Daily Mail, okay? It's not like the record of the truth, epitome of truth or anything. So, yeah. We got a couple more comments come in here. Inspire wants to follow up.
And then when you look at, again, there's more to it. If you know anything about the court procedures, when the prosecutor already have you, there's more to the situation is the reason why they were able to get off. Way more than we think. That's all I got to say about that situation. They're not telling you everything.
Okay.
They're not telling you everything about that situation. And as we all know, come on now, we can't be selective with the media. Media ain't gonna tell you everything.
Boom.
That's the reason why something, it's not fishy, it's just more to the whole story.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they were able to get a plea deal. So.
Yeah, I mean, they make plea deals with people all the time. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that these girls got a plea deal. You know, they were underage. You know, they probably didn't come from the best backgrounds, whatever it may be. But it's still just infuriating, I guess, for me personally, to see this guy who he didn't do anything. I mean, he might, you know, we don't know. He might have done something to make them want to carjack him. But just to see this guy get killed is just really heartbreaking to me. So, yeah.
Well, you are a woman, Delaney, so it's your natural reaction.
Yeah.
You should be upset.
Yeah, I'll blame it on my womanhood. I'm naturally a little bit more, furious at the situations. Whereas Jeremy, he's the calm one who's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I'm over here like, yeah, no, he's probably right. There's something we don't know, or, there's some factors not involved. But again, I cede back to my original truth underlies everything we talk about. The full truth is never actually fully available. And whether that's intentional or not, it's just a fact. The full truth is not available in this story, so we don't know why they got a plea deal. We got another one here from Cole King.
So, just a question, guys. I like the conversation. Are you guys saying that wealth and whiteness don't impact the level of justice received in this country?
I would say wealth definitely helps, but your skin color, no. I think people that have more money definitely have a leg up in the justice system, and that's something that I've been saying since day one. Rich people can definitely afford better representation than poor people, and that definitely gives you a leg up when it comes to getting, better representation in the justice system.
I would say, first of all, you have to define justice. I don't even know what that means. Justice received in this country, I don't know what that means. If you're talking about the general outcomes of the justice system, well, that's a very complex, multivariable problem. But if you're talking, justice as far as overall outcomes of people in this country, then I would say absolutely whiteness impacts the level of justice, because as a white person, I don't have the privilege that minorities do in terms of, for example, college admissions. Or getting hired for a job. Minorities are much more likely to get hired over me simply because they have different color skin. They have diversity quotas, diversity requirements, things like that. So I experience less justice in terms of outcomes than a minority would in America. But if you're going to actual courts, if you want to talk about the specific, like actual result of the justice system, then you have to ask yourself why they're in the justice system to begin with. You don't end up in the justice system unless you commit a crime, and crimes, regardless of the circumstances, are always a matter of choice. You don't commit a crime with somebody mind controlling you or holding a gun to your head to commit a crime. These minorities who do live in poverty still choose to commit crime. I know the argument tends to be, well, they live in poverty, so they're what do you expect? They have to commit crime. They're impoverished by white supremacy. It's still a matter of choice. There's actually more white poor people in this country than there are black poor people, and yet we see the black crime statistics far outweigh whites in terms of proportionality. So there's multiple angles to take on that question. I would appreciate some clarification because, again, I don't know what that means, justice received. Let's bounce back to, we got one from David Spencer.
Totally disagree with Inspire. Absolutely, totally disagree. No,
I like this.
Even if they've got you, they still offer you a plea deal to save the state money, the money it would cost them to go to trial, even though they know you're going to be guilty anyway. It's much cheaper to sign this piece of paper than to go and get some jurors to sit in a box. Believe me, it's much cheaper.
We got stereo on stereo debates going on here, people.
Right? This is awesome. No, and I kind of agree with him. Like, I know that people will take plea deals because they know that they've done something wrong, and instead of like taking it to trial and costing the courts hella money and also costing themselves hella money, they'll just take the plea deal and serve their time or pay the price, whatever it may be, instead of doing the whole runaround to prove something that, to try to disprove or prove something that it did or did not happen. So, yeah.
I'm open to it. I'm open to whatever the rational point is to be presented because I don't have much interaction with the court system because I haven't committed any crimes. I haven't chosen to commit any crimes. So I don't know what plea deals are. I don't know how they're reached, why they're reached. I'll fully admit that. Admit my ignorance on that.
I mean, Jeremy, it's a good thing that you haven't had to go through the court system. Count your blessings.
It's not a blessing when it's a choice. I chose not to commit any crimes. But yes, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. We got Amadeus.
Conservatives have been brainwashed to keep up with the status quo. The status quo is just not changing things because you're afraid, because you like things the way you were born with. But evolution always changes. Things always progress. You could be a conservative or a liberal as much as you like, but progression will always win in the end, no matter how slow and how much you try to fight the current. It will carry you.
Well, what are we progressing to? That's my number one question for progressive people that label themselves as progressive. Like, what are we progressing to? Because as far as I can tell, a lot of these progressive policies that are getting put in place are not actually progressing us towards anything. They're actually kind of regressing us.
Yeah, it's another case where I would need a definition of progression because if you look at a lot of these ideologies put forth by the left, they're actually very contrary to biology, contrary to science, contrary to nature, human nature, contrary to very well-studied phenomenon in terms of how humans behave. Things like incentives, whether humans are selfless or selfish, things like that. Things like how we react to incentives. It's just there's a lot of it seems like disregard for long-held truths that seem to fall under the umbrella of progressivism, which is why I don't tend to believe that they are as progress-oriented as they think. It's in a lot of ways regressive. But again, I'm open to if he wants to clarify on a definition and maybe explain how they're progressive. I agree with him on one thing, though. Nature and reality will persist and continue on regardless of how you choose to act and behave. So if you want to choose to act and behave in a way that's contrary to human nature, contrary to nature, contrary to universal law, you will suffer the consequences. So I don't know if what's closer to nature, 87 genders or 2 genders?
No, it's 120 genders, Jeremy. Don't you know?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I can't. It's hard.
Yeah, they keep updating it, and they just keep adding more and more, and they get more and more, wide with the array of genders. So, we need to keep up with these things, man.
Let's see here. We got a story. Let's jump over. Let's slightly switch topics. I mean, it's still kind of related to the leftism, mental illness topics. On the border, we've got your updates for the Black on Asian violence and the Black stuff that's been going on lately. By the way, I'm skipping over, I think, 2 stories that we are not going to cover that was additional Black on Asian violence, but for the sake of time, we're going to move on to the next topic. This is an interesting one because we talked about the border last week. We're talking about how the border is basically crumbling and how not only do we have record numbers of unaccompanied children coming across, which is, you would think somebody would call that out as a human rights crisis, a humanity crisis, a child crisis. You know, I'm sure there's all kinds of names you could put on that, but yet we don't hear anything. We've had record numbers, record amounts of methamphetamine, and other kind of narcotics seized in places like Miami at the border. 1,100 pounds last week of methamphetamine coming across the border. And we have an endless flood of meth and other chemicals coming into places like California and Arizona. Now, we've got yet another reason you should pay attention to the border. And this is from directly the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Release date April 5th. This is brand spanking new, hot off the press, folks. From Calexico, California, U.S. Border Patrol agents assigned to El Centro sector arrested 2 Yemeni men. Yeah, that's right, Yemeni. That's not Mexico. That's a different country.
Yeah, that's
not even in Central
That's on the
America.
other side of. That's on the other side of the world, folks.
Yeah, but why were they? How did they don't come in through Mexico? They can't. People in the world can't move around with planes and boats and cars. They have to come in directly from the border that they reside in. That's how that works, right? No, it's not. Border Patrol arrested 2 Yemeni men within the last 2 months that were identified on a terrorism watch list.
Oh, that's why they're going through Mexico. That's why they're going through Mexico.
Well, if you're a
because if they actually, I was going to say, if you actually went through customs through an airport, they would probably get flagged.
Yeah,
flagged at customs. So they have to go through Mexico.
Wouldn't make it through a port. Wouldn't make it through an airport. So where do you got to do? Well, you got to find an open door, obviously, and there's a giant open door on the southern border, and you can just. Obviously, these guys weren't smart enough to make it across, but the point is, they tried. And for every 2 that get caught, how many get through? That is the question. I work in cybersecurity. I can tell you for everything we catch, there's 100 that gets by, and I'm sure human systems are even less perfect. Mexicans don't have roads, duh, says Bill. The first incident occurred on January 29th at approximately 1:10 a.m. when agents assigned to El Centro Station arrested a man for illegally entering the United States. Agents apprehended the man approximately 3 miles west of Calexico Port of Entry and transported him to the El Centro Processing Center for immigration and criminal history screening. Agents conducted records checks, which revealed that the man, a 33-year-old illegal alien from Yemen, was on the FBI terrorism watch list as well as on the no-fly list. Well, I mean, again, if you're on the no-fly list,
double whammy.
You can't fly, you can't go on a boat. You can try to come in through Mexico. See, now this guy was lazy because he came in through a port of entry. Come on, dude.
Well, you gotta try.
Like the kids. No, you just gotta run across like the kids, right? You just find a group that's going across and just blend in.
Pay the coyotes and pay the cartels and just sneak over like the rest of the people coming in from Central and South America.
Well, again,
get on that Soros Express train.
This is the reality: is that is happening a lot. It's just that these are the 2 idiots on the lower end of the bell curve that actually got caught. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, they're definitely idiots.
Oh, he was trying to sneak in a SIM card too. That's interesting. He had a SIM card hidden in underneath the insole of his shoe. Interesting.
I wonder what was on there.
Yeah, well, it's a SIM card, so he's trying to get some kind of.
I'd probably say
covert communications channel.
I mean, I was gonna say. I mean, my catastrophizing mind is like, oh, he probably has like some kiddie porn on there or something. But the logical one is like,
SIM card,
he's just
not an SD card.
Secret communications. Well, you could still like take pictures on your phone and kiddie porn pictures on your phone and save them.
The SIM cards stole?
I don't know.
Maybe. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm open to that. Yeah. These. So I like where you're going with it. He's trying to sneak in kiddie porn on the SIM card across the border, even though he's from Yemen and he's a terrorist. I like it.
That's where my dark mind goes. But you're probably right, Jeremy, the logical one. You're like, it's probably like some secret communications with his terrorist buddies. You're probably right on that one.
So add that. I guess we got a hilarious follow-up to this story. Add that to the list of reasons why you should be caring about the border. But again, if you want a closed, secure border, you're a white supremacist and all that, right? Even though we have human rights crisis happening down there, drug crisis is happening down there. Now we have confirmed terrorists trying to come across. But there's no legitimate reason to be concerned about the border unless you're a white supremacist.
No. Yeah, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Don't even look. Don't worry about it. All these Border Patrol agents who are mostly like Hispanic descent, they're all racist. They don't want no brown people to cross, even though most of them are brown themselves. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. They caught him, so we're good.
Dari says in YouTube chat, I said it a few weeks ago and it was ignored. They caught some Iranians coming across the border. Yeah, I think I actually do remember reading that, Dari. You called it, buddy. You called it. It got a small mention on the radio and was never heard from again. Yeah, well, that's how this stuff goes. It gets memory hold, right? If it doesn't agree with the narrative, it gets memory hold.
Yeah, I know for a fact that there's been just people from other countries that can't come in legally to the United States. So the next best thing is to just go to Mexico and just cross illegally. So, it's not uncommon to see people who are not just people from Mexico and Central and South America crossing the border illegally. It's not unheard of.
MA says her mind went to the exact same place yours did with the kitty porn thing.
That's just where my brain goes, because that's what I worry about most is people coming in and bringing those kinds of nasty things into our the United States is already like one of the largest consumers of underage pornography. So I just don't want more of that being contributed to our society. That's just where my brain goes.
All right, guys, if you want to build the wall, put a like on the video, okay? We need some engagement on there. We have some gaps in the wall we need to fill. And a thumbs up, 1 thumbs up equals 1 yard of wall built. It's very easy. All you have to do is click the thumbs up, and then we get a yard of additional wall. And guess who's going to be building it? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden himself is going to be building the wall because, as we've just learned from the Department of Homeland Security, they may restart construction on the U.S.-Mexico border to fill any quote-unquote gaps in the current barrier, says Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Mayorkas made the comments at a nice meeting last week, according to meeting notes obtained by the Washington Times. That's right, folks. You heard it. Biden is building that wall.
Good. He was talking about tearing it down, but it's good that he actually is realizing that method of just letting those sections of wall that aren't complete just not be completed is not doing any good, because people are just flooding the border and putting a giant crisis on the Border Patrol. And Border Patrol already has enough problems, and they don't need thousands upon thousands of migrants just flooding the border and filling up the immigration court system.
Well, Biden, I think he understands he needs to do something, and this might be the smallest gesture that he can put forth to say that, hey, look, I'm actually taking proactive efforts towards this, because you've literally got, the story really looks bad for Biden, right? You've got record numbers of kids coming across 3 months into his presidency with explicit reasoning given that it's because he's the one in office, because Biden's the nice guy, he's not going to send us back, he's not going to deport us. People literally coming across wearing shirts with Biden's logo on it. It says, Biden, please let us in.
Right?
Makes me laugh
waving
every time.
Biden flags and stuff.
It makes me laugh every time. I can't never not laugh at that. But it looks really bad for him, so he's got to do something. You can't just sit there and with thousands of kids coming across, I think 18,000 coming across in 1 month in the month of March. Jesus Christ, come on. It's an actual crisis.
Well, yeah, and also, too, I saw a news report. Somebody interviewed one of the Border Patrol agents, and the Border Patrol agent said that he was interviewing a little girl that they apprehended who crossed the border illegally. She was abandoned by the group that she was with, and then once Border Patrol got a hold of her, they were interviewing her, and they wanted her to see a doctor, and she was afraid to see a doctor because apparently she had been gang raped by the coyotes and all of the people that were crossing with her. So that's another concern. It's dude, if you actually care about children and you like you say you do, you don't want the kids in cages, then we need to put something up for them to not incentivize them to cross and not incentivize them to traffic children and traffic drugs and traffic guns and all kinds of just bad things into this country. If we really care about protecting our country and the people of Central and South America.
Yeah, it's a good point. It really comes down to a matter of incentives, and that's what the wall is. Because when you argue for the wall, if you try to make a logical argument for the wall, people always say the same exact thing. Well, they can just get a ladder. They could just dig under it, or whatever. They'll find a way around it. Okay, you don't understand incentives. The wall is there to dissuade somebody from making a 3,000-mile journey from Honduras, or however far it is, or whatever country they're coming from in South or Central America, in the hordes of people that come up through Mexico. It's to dissuade them from coming, de-incentivize them from coming. Yes, you could always find a way around the wall. You could climb over the Great Wall of China if you wanted to. I'm sure some Mongols did it. Okay, that didn't stop the Mongols. It's not going to stop anybody from Mexico or any. It's an incentive to de-incentivize the travel. That's really what it is. And when Biden comes in and says, "Hey, I'm a nice guy. Hey, come on, corn pop," and then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's a nice guy," and then that's an incentive for people to come. So do you think is it really that complex of an issue to really put together one and two to see Biden getting in with a light stance on border, and then a record number of children and unaccompanied migrants and migrants in general coming across? It's not that hard to make the connection there.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people don't understand about the wall too. Like, yes, there is a physical barrier there, but they're also installing sensors to be able to detect when people are trying to climb the wall or go under the wall. They've given more funding to Border Patrol, so there's more agents on the ground to apprehend the people and help them, because a lot of these people are being smuggled in against their will. A lot of them are these children are being kidnapped and sold into slavery, like modern day slavery. They have drones. They have all kinds of. They're like updating the technology, so it's not just like, yes, it is for the physical barrier, but it's also for the technology to help them do their job better.
Yeah, I was.
And Ma in the YouTube chat says, I recommend Tom Homan's book about the border to everyone. ICE is doing God's work. So many exploited children and families, and that's true. We need to put that physical barrier up, not because we're trying to be mean, but we're just trying to get it through people's heads that we don't want what has been going on and being exploited in our country for years now.
Let's go to our UK correspondent.
This is shocking. Absolutely shocking. I am obviously a very naive, non-American person, but where's the wall? Trump said he was building a wall. What are you talking about border stuff for? Surely the Mexican wall that was totally funded by Trump, that was built to 20 height with electric gates and stuff on it that was very clever, that would keep people out. Why are we talking about people going across border?
Yes.
There's something wrong.
Giant holes.
Yes, there are massive holes, Nick, in the border. Yes, there are nice swaths of border that have been built and are working, but there are also just giant holes in the wall where they stopped construction. Biden, the president, whoever runs Border Patrol, told them to stop building because they are just trying to figure out what are they going to do with the whole border situation. It's awful. And even with the wall, I've seen videos of people scaling the wall and figuring out ways to get over the wall too. But like I said, they also put motion sensors so they can detect them easier.
You know what the irony is about the whole wall thing? Is I can't think off the top of my head. And let me know if you can think of one. And let me know in chat, and let me know in stereo if you can think of a more appropriate country to put a wall between you and this country. Because Mexico, I'm not sure if you are fully aware of the situation that's going on down there, but you have a narco-run government that's completely controlled by a series of criminal organizations. You have regular occurrences of things like police getting massacred in large numbers. I think just a couple weeks ago, 13 or 14 cops just got brutally killed by these criminal organizations that run the entire country, that have way more money than anybody else, have more control over everything else, and use the country as basically their launch pad for their business, that they send all these drugs and guns and child trafficking and human trafficking into America and across South and Central America. Maybe North, I don't even think that wall would be more warranted if you were on the border with North Korea. North Korea is more chill than Mexico. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. Maybe North Korea can send a missile, but a wall is not going to stop a missile anyway. There's more stuff coming across from Mexico than I think. I literally, like I said, I can't think of any other country off the top of my head where you would want to have a wall protecting you from. And yet, here we are saying that people are actually arguing that there should be no wall.
I was going to say, I think that there is actually a giant wall in between North and South Korea. And
there's a DMZ. It's not really a wall.
Yeah, there's the there is the DMZ, and you don't really see people from North Korea like running towards the DMZ and like trying to cross the DMZ illegally. You're not really seeing that in like mass numbers like you are here in the United States.
Yeah, nothing happens in the DMZ. It's chill. There's guys over here, and then they watch the guys on this other side, and they just look at each other all day long. That's all they do. Nothing happens there. You don't even need a wall because it's so chill. But on Mexico,
I think I saw a video of that the South Koreans, they like have giant speakers pointed towards North Korea and they like blast K-pop at them.
I'm sure they troll each other on a constant basis with things like that. Yeah, but you get the point, right? Like, let me go to chat and see if anybody gave me any suggestions of other countries here. Yeah, there's a fence across the DMZ. DMZ is fenced. Build the wall and tall and wide.
I think Phil in YouTube chat says the most appropriate country, Israel. Israel has a wall around there.
They've got a wall bigger and better than we do.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, it's to keep all the Palestinians out. Which, I mean, if the Palestinians weren't attacking the wall constantly, they wouldn't need a wall. But
so, I mean, just take that point. Buried in the back of your head. Is there a more appropriate country to wall off than Mexico? And a narco state run by criminal organizations that slaughters police, that literally chops the heads off of people, puts them hanging off of overpasses. Every crazy absurdity that you can think of is happening down there. Let's go to Chris and see what Chris has to say.
So I'm just passing through and I heard y'all's conversation. However, I do live here in Donna, Texas, where we have a huge surge of, immigrants coming here. However, I will tell you this. This didn't just start happening. This was happening under Trump's watch as well. So both of them aren't really doing much about it. But Biden, I will give it to him. He's trying to move them around.
I will agree with him there that neither of them were really doing too much about it.
Well, I mean, I would say Trump he actually tried to do something, put up a physical barrier, whereas Biden, like this guy is saying, he's just moving them around. I think I saw something that said that they're like paying for them to have hotels and stuff like that. Like, what? Yeah. Why are we paying for their hotel stays here in the United States? Like, no, send them back to Mexico, make them wait there. Also, Trump started the wait in Mexico policy. So I wouldn't say that he did nothing.
I wanted to bounce back to a comment from Bill. He said, drugs, sex trafficking, guns, terrorism, poverty, petty crime, welfare system drain, and pricing out of the local workforce are just a few benefits of an unsecured border. Well said, sir. Let's go back to our Mexico correspondent.
So, guys, here's what I always have to ask. Have any of you ever lived in a border town?
I've never lived, but I've been to a border town plenty of times, and it's not well, depends on which side. I've been to Tijuana a few times, and it's not a pretty place, whatsoever.
No.
How about you, Jeremy? You ever been to a border town?
I've been to border towns, yes. I spent some time in Nogales. I've been across the border to the touristy, well, not really touristy. I mean, it's pretty trashy, pretty terrible side of Mexico. But I've lived the majority of my life in Phoenix, Arizona. And we hear a lot more than the general public does in America on the local news about stuff that's happening on the border. Things like trucks full of illegal immigrants getting turned over on the freeway with 18 people dying. Things like houses full of illegal immigrants with 120 people jam-packed inside of a house getting caught, ransacked, that are just basically drop points, transitional points for human trafficking. Things like gigantic drug busts coming across the border that you don't hear on national news. So although I haven't lived on a border town, I have been to border towns. I have been across the border multiple times, and I would say I would definitely have an above average understanding of what's going on down there. But no, I have not lived on a border town.
Yeah, I haven't lived in one either. I've just visited, but even just visiting, I remember the first time I ever went to Tijuana, I was like, I think it was like 10. And as soon as I crossed over, I was like, I want to go home. This is not where I want to be, Mom.
Or our UK correspondent.
I could even tell.
Hi guys, great show by the way. Horrible to say, but in the last 4 hours, there has been incredible violence and attacks and rioting in Northern Ireland as a result of the border that we now have between Northern Ireland, which is British, or part of the UK, and Southern Ireland, which is now European. 41 police officers have been injured. There are many, many reports of people being hurt. And this has happened over the last few days as a result of, well, what Britain voted for many, many years ago now. That was brought in only recently, but which has divided what was effectively a much older war, mainly on religious grounds, between North and Southern Ireland.
That sucks, man. I didn't even hear about that, but thank you for sharing that because that's terrible.
I think what she's saying is that Ireland needs to build a wall.
They have a wall between the North and the South?
No, I don't think so. There's they got a Hadrian's Wall or something like that up there somewhere. I don't think that's in Ireland. But yeah, no, it's it's the kind of stuff that you don't really hear about over here. We don't hear about that, and she doesn't know about the Mexican border really. So yeah, that's a silo we live in. Walls create violence, says Anthony in YouTube chat. There's an interesting prospect. Walls create violence.
I mean, I guess people who are on the other side of the wall, not on the side that they want to be on, get mad and wanna tear it down. And yeah, I guess, but the whole point of it is like, if you want to be on the other side of that wall, then instead of, trying to get on the other side of that wall by means of violence, how about like doing it the smart way and the clever way and just getting in, like having an in. That's my suggestion.
We got a follow-up from, who is it? Chris.
Well, let me tell you this, too. It's pretty much to the point to where I live, I have seen the wall does nothing. And that's what people that do not live in the border towns, they don't realize the wall does nothing. It doesn't even deter the people, because guess what? There's 4 tunnels that go under this wall, and then half of them fly over, and they just stay in the country illegally. They'll fly on a visa and just stay here. So there's more to it than what people know. It's just we have to figure out a way to deal with it a little bit more humanely.
I can probably say one thing with certainty. There's probably more than 4 tunnels. There's probably a lot of tunnels.
There's definitely more tunnels, but they're trying to find those tunnels and stop them. I'm not saying like the wall is going to, deter every single person, but it's definitely... if you see a wall there, you're going to really try to climb a 30-foot wall, and that there's Border Patrol on the other side that are going to arrest you and put you in these detention centers, these concentration camps, as AOC liked to call them when Trump was in office. I personally wouldn't want that. If I was trying to be smart about it, I wouldn't want to be stuck in these terrible conditions as so outlined. But then again, he is correct. Like, they do fly in and then stay illegally on a visa. But, that was also a part of the whole funding for like the wall and the whole immigration system, was to give resources to these immigration officers to be able to deport these people when they overstay their visas. Not just like Mexicans and Central and South Americans, but also Europeans, Africans, Chinese people. Yeah, it's not just that physical barrier. It's so much more too than that.
Yeah, the wall in and of itself is not effective enough. It's kind of like the wall. This is the whole irony of the entire situation with the wall is that some people see it as such a travesty, such an offense, but in reality, it's like the bare minimum that you should have in place. And we can't even get to the point of having a bare minimum thing in place. Like, you should have a wall plus XYZ, you know, like the recommendation this guy might have for more quote-unquote humane solutions. I don't know what that really means, humane solutions. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that... Right? I think a wall is pretty humane. Like, it's a physical barrier. It's like, it's literally a physical barrier saying, like, don't cross over this line. Like, I don't understand, like, how that's not humane.
Compared
it's like,
to,
instead of crossing over this line...
If you put alligators in a
Jeremy.
moat, then, you know, that's a little less humane. If you put like
Right?
snipers
Or-
in towers or like attack drones or something like that, that's a little less humane.
Right?
I don't know how much more
Or
humane it can get than a
stalking...
wall.
Yeah, Stalking Horse in our YouTube chat says minefields. Are minefields...
Like the DMZ. Go back to the DMZ. They got mine.
Yeah.
That's just tons of mines between two chain link fences. That's all that is.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Is giving up the country his only answer? Yeah, well, I don't know. I've never heard any really good solutions. That's kind of the problem here, is that we want to stoke some discussion around what the solutions may be. But yeah, no, Tyler put it exactly correctly in chat. He said, I think he said it before I said exactly what he's about to say. He said the wall is like a starting point. Once there's a wall, upgrades can be done to it. That's right. We don't have the wall is the first basic, like in the professional world. If you're in an environment where you're in corporate, rolling out projects, doing project management, stuff like that, it's called maturity 0. At the basic level of maturity, where the program just has the bare minimum functionality. We don't even have the maturity level 0. We have no maturity at all as far as the security at the border goes. The wall, a complete wall, would be maturity level 0. And then you could mix, like, if you add drones, automated drones, that'd be maturity level 1. If you add, you know, like seismic sensors to detect drilling or tunnels or whatever, that'd be maturity level 2, et cetera, et cetera. So, tar pits. Well,
Phil in our YouTube chat suggests tar pits.
the tar pits. See, the tar pits wouldn't work too well in the desert because it's so hot. The tar would be just like water. It wouldn't be gooey enough to really slow you down. It'd be too melted.
Quicksand. They need to put quicksand out there.
Wood chipper says, yeah. Bill says wood chipper. Okay, I think that could potentially be. Just put like stationary wood chippers, and then if they fall into the wood chipper, is that what you're saying? Or is there somebody manning like a wheel mounted wood chipper who chases people? Is that? I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of options. That's all I'm saying, and we need to have a discussion.
Yeah, but we need to have that, like you said, that first thing, that ground zero for like protecting ourselves, and the wall is one of them. That's just the starting point.
MA's firing some shots. She says the last stereo guy probably just wants the globalist dream. Uh-oh. You want the globalist dream,
Yeah.
Chris? Do you just want a global multicultural society with no America? Is that what you want?
Right.
I mean,
Maybe. I don't know. I can't read his
mind.
mind. Yeah, I mean, you're free to want that. I'm not going to, be mentally delusional and think for you or think, I know what you're thinking, but he might. It's definitely a possibility.
Speaking of the global dream, we've got a story from a couple days ago. Grand Valley State University announces they're holding separate graduations for Black, Asian, Latino, LGBTQ+, and Native American students. Yikes!
Hell yeah, progress!
This is progress, apparently. Yeah, I guess this is what could be classified as progress by some leftists. Basically, it's segregation, but it's self-segregation. And I guess
we're resegregating, guys, and that's progress.
If you're not following somebody else's order to segregate, then it's a good thing. But if you're doing it yourself, then it is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it, it's just like cutting yourself. If you're doing it to yourself, then it's not a big deal. But if you're doing it to others, then it's a big problem.
Nice depression joke. I like it. This is an email from the Office of Multicultural Affairs, of course. Inclusion and Equity Registration Reminder, of course, because you have to register for the inclusive and equity-based graduation ceremony, right? Dear Laker graduates, Grand Valley hosts 5 unique graduation celebrations annually designed to honor our diverse graduates. These programs complement the university commencement ceremonies and are an opportunity to come together and acknowledge Laker accomplishments in the spirit and traditions of our diverse identities and cultures. Asian graduations, Black, Latino /A/X, don't even know what that means. Lavender graduation, misspelled graduation, by the way, celebrating LGBTQIA+. Lavender, that's a new term for it. Has anybody heard that?
Yeah,
Lavender? Have you
that's
guys heard that one before?
I've heard of this. Remember when we
a
first
language war
started doing
update.
the stream? When we first started doing the stream, and somebody sent us a link to the Human Rights Alliance or whatever that, or the Human Rights Coalition,
Yes.
and they talked about like the lavender witch trials or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like the new term for the gays and the lesbians and the spaghetti people
Well, at least
is
they're making
lavender
it
people, I
a little
guess.
more digestible than LGBTQIA+. I could just say lavender, right? That's a little bit easier. Or I just say
Right.
spaghetti people and
I like
spaghetti.
Yeah, I say spaghetti people. I think it's funnier. It's more funny.
And then, of course, the native graduation celebration, of which there will be 3 people there. If
I
you,
was gonna say the native graduation is gonna have like 4, maybe
you are
5.
receiving this email because our records show that you are within 24 credits of graduations. So there you go, folks. I mean, a new batch of healthy, well-adjusted adults ready to go out into the world and make a difference, help make the country a better place. Definitely not to complain about racism in their workplace when there is no racism. You know, just a solid set of graduates with a shit ton of debt that's going out into the world to be, a great impact on our society, I'm sure. A calming effect, says Dari. Lavender, yeah. No, I'm a lot more calm when I read lavender than I am reading LGBTQIA+. I'll give them that.
Right.
They use it for autistic kids to calm them.
And I mean, I do use lavender to calm me down as well. I mean, it smells lovely, and I think one of the deodorant scents I have is lavender based. So yeah, lavender is definitely more digestible than LGBTQRXWNYP, spaghetti people.
Is this progressivism? That's what I want to know. Is this progress? Somebody in chat, please tell me if this is progress, and tell me how this is progress. How is segregation progress? And this isn't the first. This isn't like a little one-off anomaly, fluke that we've seen with this segregation stuff. We've seen multiple cases before where there's like parent-teacher conferences we covered on this channel. We covered a few weeks back how schools are segregating parent-teacher conferences. If you're Asian, you come at this time schedule. If you're black, you come at this time. If you're white, you come at this time. We've covered multiple other instances of this happening, and I'm thinking what's happening with this is that people are actually coming to the understanding on the left that a multicultural society isn't actually feasible. A multiracial, multicultural society at this scale is simply not feasible, and they're just working through it themselves. They're working through that gradual realization, and they're making changes to adapt to that. It's not so much that they hate white people. I don't think they're doing this because they hate white people. I think they don't understand the irony in what they're doing, in their acknowledgement that multicultural society is not feasible because they're segregating themselves out of it.
I mean, I've been calling this for a while now, the whole self-segregation thing, and I had been seeing it. I mean, how many college campuses are there now where they have like black only spaces, or black and brown only spaces, and now they're doing the whole separate graduation ceremony thing. Like, wouldn't it be more inclusive and more feasible to just have one giant graduation and just be like allow the college and universities to do this, and also financially a little bit less of a burden to
That's a good point.
just do one giant graduation for everybody.
A lot less
I
overhead.
mean, think about it. Yeah, well, they're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different graduations, and a lot of these graduations are probably not going to have very many people anyways. So why are we separating the white people's graduations from the Asians, the blacks, the Latinos, and lavender spaghetti people and the natives, when fiscally, wouldn't it be just more responsible to just have it all together? And if you're really about inclusion and diversity, to just have everybody together.
Well, here, let me reframe it in a way that's going to make them hate this. They're going to hate these diversity and inclusion graduation ceremonies after I say what I'm about to say, because what they're allowing, what they're enabling, what you, the progressives, are enabling. I'm pointing to the camera for those who aren't watching the show. You are enabling is a white-only graduation. Do you want that? Do you want me to be able to say, yeah, I get to go to a white-only graduation? You notice how that's the only difference between this and actual segregation of like Jim Crow era, is that instead of a whites-only sign, it's a all minorities sign. It's the exact same effect, the exact same outcome, just simply a different framing on the whole thing.
I mean, I think pretty sure all the white supremacists, you know, the 15 left, are loving the whole idea of a white-only graduation ceremony and white-only spaces. They're like, yeah, this is what we want. Yeah, it's great.
Well, Phil C. in chat says,
do you guys...
it's just an effort to separate the whites. But here's the question for you guys. Now, are you really against this? I'm going to ask that to you, and you can ask that to yourself. Are you really against this? Because I think there is a lot to be said about their methodology and their acknowledgement that a multicultural society doesn't work. And again, it's not my acknowledgement. There's no conservatives making active efforts to separate people. There's no Republicans making... I'm not that I'm a conservative. I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm an alt-centrist. The people who are segregating and separating people are on the left. They're the ones making the acknowledgement that multicultural society doesn't seem to be feasible. I'm simply agreeing with that. I think I agree with it. I seem to perceive a lot more friction, a lot more discord between races when they try to smash them together in, you know, socio-political communities and other places like that. MA says it's progress, Jeremy, because white equals boring, lame, non-white equals special. Simple as that. Okay, I can see that. But I mean, here's the thing: if your enemy is making a misstep that you can take advantage of, are you going to stop them? That's the question.
No.
So I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying segregation is right. I'm not saying that having everything separated out by race is right. I'm simply standing back and watching and observing. I'm just like, interesting. Okay, let's see where this goes.
Yeah. Phil C. in the YouTube chat says, I say, hey, if they want it, and I'm in the same boat. I'm like, hey, if they want it, go for it. Like, we'll let that pan out. You know, we did have segregation, you know, 60 plus years ago. And, you know, we fought really hard to desegregate and assimilate and integrate. And if they want to resegregate and let that pan out, go for it. Yeah. Why, as Holly in YouTube chat says, why stop progress? Exactly. Why are we going to stop this progress?
Well, here's another interesting reframing of it, because this is what I do. I like to put an idea out in space, and then I like to attack it from all different perspectives and angles. Tell me if you're someone who's pro this, if you're pro segregation, pro minority, pro inclusivity ceremonies and whatnot. Tell me how you can prove to me that this isn't the result of a white nationalist infiltration of your institutions who wants to create a white-only graduation ceremony simply by reframing it as a minority and inclusive ceremony. Tell me how you know that's not happening. Because it could be some racist white supremacists, because we all know that the left will simultaneously tell us that the white supremacists have a lot of power in this country, right? So we know one thing for sure. We know the white supremacists have a lot of power. We don't know how, we don't know why, but they do have a lot of power. So would it be outside of the bounds of their power to infiltrate these institutions and set up a white-only ceremony by tricking them into adopting a minority-only ceremony? Ooh. Tell me how do you explain that one? Tell me, leftist. Disprove that this is a white supremacist infiltration. Would disprove that. So there's a couple different angles on that perspective for you.
the more I sit here and I think about this, like how many at this particular college, Grand Valley State University, how many Asians, Blacks, Latinos, gays, and lesbians and Native Americans are actually like actually going to sign up for these different graduations? Like how many of each category?
Yeah.
I really want to know. If it's like 5 people, are they really going to have a whole ass like separate graduation ceremony for 5 people? Like I don't see it's very feasible, but you never know. These people are pretty deranged, and they probably will be like, "Yeah, this is great. Let's do it."
Bill brings up a great point in chat. He says Richard Spencer, who is the most evil white supremacist, nationalist, racist, Nazi person that the left can usually conjure up in name, he did vote for Biden, and he does not like Trump. So there's that. MA says, I'm only against it if certain groups are allowed to do it. If segregation is fine if people are choosing that, but not when one group is not allowed to do it like we have now. Interesting. So if it's done in like we're extra including people instead of excluding people, kind of like is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, also like they're probably going to include like white people in the Asian graduation, because don't you know Asian is white now?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, they'll have to change it every year because their definitions of what these people are and where they are in the oppression hierarchy changes every year. So Asians, I mean, 2 years ago, Asians were down on the totem pole, right, of the oppression hierarchy. Now, no, sorry. A few years back, they were high up on the totem pole. They weren't very oppressed. Now they're like super oppressed, right? We gotta have Asian Lives Matter signs because they're so oppressed, and they're so it changes rapidly. You got to keep up with it, right? Yeah. And now that we remember how earlier in the stream we were talking about how Asian is just too broad, are we going to separate the Asians now? We're going to have a Chinese graduation and a Filipino graduation and a Korean and an Indian. I mean, yeah. I mean, for the sake of inclusion and for the sake of diversity, we need to split up the Asian graduation, and same thing with the Latino / Latinx graduation, because there's so much diversity in the Latinx community as well. We're going to do a Mexican or a Honduran or a Brazilian or a whatever. Like, are we going to really go that far? Like that's where we're coming. That's where I feel like we're headed is. We're just going to split all of these categories up even more and divide ourselves even further. Yeah, Tyler brings up I think he's on the same page as that I'm at. He says they're trying to, by diversifying and uniting people, instead create nationalism and true racism again. That's kind of where I'm inclined to go with this. It seems like this is exactly what you would do if you were trying to create racists and trying to create nationalism. But hey, that's just me, and I take a little different perspective on these issues. So, and I also like to throw that out there as a wrench in the brains of the people who just default to, diversity, inclusion. That's always a good thing. Don't even question it, no matter what. Again, I ask you, if you think this is progress, tell me how. You don't know. This is a white nationalist infiltrating these institutions to remove the minorities from the white celebrations, to have a white-only celebration, because that's exactly what it's going to end up being, right? If theoretically every Hispanic went to the Hispanic graduation, and every Asian went to the Asian graduation, and every black, what would you be left with? A white-only graduation ceremony. So, all right, that's the end result.
Anthony in the YouTube chat says, if you're mixed race, do you get 2 graduations? Yeah. If I went to college at this place, would I get 3 graduations? Because technically I'm like 3 different things. I can go to the Asian one. I could go to the Asian, I could go to the Latinx, the Lavender, and the Native. So I could go to 4 graduations.
I wouldn't even go to any.
Yeah, at this point I would just go to the one. Yeah, just give me my degree and let me get a job.
I wouldn't even go to one. So if you see if this kind of stuff is happening around you, and maybe you're at a college where they don't have segregated ceremonies yet, right? The question might be for you, what can I do to stop the racism? Because it's so prevalent. It's happening all around me. I don't know. I can't. We got an article here from MSNBC that Delaney provided us with, and I think it's going to be very useful because it's 5 things that you can do in the moment if you witness racial harassment. So let's maybe what we can do with this, to put a fun little spin on it, is to contrast this article with all of the black on Asian violence that we've seen in the past few weeks, and see if any of these were actively applied in those situations. And maybe if they were, they could have been stopped. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm entirely joking. Of course, this wasn't put in place, but we have to always have a tongue-in-cheek kind of sarcastic angle on this kind of stuff. This is from CNBC.com, more of a... and of course, they frame it immediately by saying, according to a recent report from Stop Asian Hate, which documented anti-Asian incidents during the pandemic, the majority of discrimination, such as verbal harassment, shunning, and physical assault, occurs in businesses. That's followed by public sidewalks and streets. Wondering what you can do if you witness a racial harassment or violence in public? There are specific tactics that bystanders and witnesses can use to take care of people who are experiencing harassment as it's happening, says Emily May, co-founder and executive director of Holla Back, a global organization aimed at ending harassment in all of its forms. This is so great, because we talk about how everything in life is masculine and feminine, right? Everything you see coming out of the left, which this is inherently at its core feminine. What is more feminine than thinking you can end harassment in all of its forms? Oh my, that's so fantastic.
It's a massive undertaking, but I'm willing to. It's a massive undertaking, but I'm willing to try.
I mean, they legitimately believe they can end all of harassment. They legitimately believe they can end all racism. They can end all injustice. They can end all these things, like as if it can just one day there's a few cases of it, and then the next day there's zero, and then until the end of eternity there's zero. That's what they think can happen. So obviously that's delusional, and again, that probably correlates highly with the mental illness that you see that's proven to be highly propagated among leftist, especially women, especially white leftist women in particular, 40% of which are diagnosed with a mental illness, and the other 60% probably have it, just haven't been diagnosed with it.
Yep, I was going to say most of them are probably living with it and just never gone to the doctor because doctors are racist.
That's a good point. Yeah, doctors are racist and fatphobic, and it's just so much easier to self-diagnose yourself and then beg for attention on your social media platform of choice. So
yeah, Dr. WebMD is always a good idea.
Let's see, if you were watching a black guy with a knife stomping on the head of an Asian woman, would this be effective? Number one, distract. Create a distraction to de-escalate the situation. For example, you could do something that creates a disruption, like spill a drink or drop your personal items. While it might seem random, it, quote, allows a person to doing the harassing to second-guess themselves and allows the person being harassed to get out of the situation. So I'm stomping on your head, and then you drop a cup. I'm going to look over and be like, huh? Oh, what was I? I was just stomping on this woman's head. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop stomping on this woman's head because you distracted me from doing it. Yeah.
No, I no longer hate Asians because you dropped your purse on the floor. Okay, I'm going to go with a 0 out of 5 for effectiveness on that one.
Okay,
delegate,
definitely not that effective. But
delegate, interesting. Find help from someone in a position of authority. Oh, look at that. Yes, of course, as we have spoken about.
So get the police officers that y'all want to defund. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Call 911, but oh wait, there's nobody on the line because we defunded them all last year because I was mad. Find help from someone in a position of authority or ask someone nearby if they can seek out someone to intervene. This could be a manager, security guard, front desk person, or flight attendant, for example. Now, here's a question. This person that you're going to, this person in a quote-unquote position of authority, are you looking for any particular gender in this person to save the day in this situation, perhaps? Maybe there's a gender bias?
I mean, I personally would delegate it to a man because, again, I'm a tiny female. What am I going to do if it's a grown man stomping on a woman's head? I would find a big dude to stomp on that other dude, but that's just me.
See, that's the irony of this, is the woman writing this, the woman who wants to employ this feminine tactic of, eradicating all harassment and wants to call on authorities that don't exist because they defunded the police, wants a man to de-escalate the situation. They want a man to delegate the authority to. So let's not get that twisted at all. If she turned around and there was like a 90-pound girl at the front desk, at the front of that hotel, instead of a 180-pound guy, you wouldn't be inclined to even mention it to her because you know what's going to happen if you send her in. She's going to get chopped up, right? Step 3.
Oh, yeah, she's going to get slashed up.
Document. Recording an incident can be very useful, but it's important to assess your own safety and make sure that a person being harassed is already being helped before you take out your phone to record. Oh my God, this is it. This is the article that every retard reads, where they're in the middle of an incident where someone's getting their face stomped on, and they're just standing around, pointing their phones at them, or exactly like we saw in that video of the subway, the Asian guy getting beat by the black guy in the subway last week. What was everyone doing? Nobody was intervening. Nobody was delegating. Nobody was delaying. Nobody dropped their purse on the floor. What did they all do? They definitely documented. So they got this down right. They definitely love to document. And I'm sure it's only because they want to document for legal purposes afterwards, and definitely not because they just want to share it on social media and get a bunch of likes and credit.
Yeah, definitely not because they want to post it to World Star and get some kind of clout on World Star Hip Hop. That's definitely not the case.
So for anyone who may be just joining us, we're talking about the 5 Ds of harassment, and things you can do in the moment if you witness racial harassment. The first one was distract.
Yep.
Drop your purse on the floor so the guy can, get distracted. Number 2 is delegate. Find a man. Make him do it. Number 3, document. Pull out your phone and record it, because obviously, George Floyd would never get justice if we didn't record it, right? Every other incident you can think of that shouldn't have been a big deal that got recorded and made a big deal. Yes, document it, put it on Twitter so we can blow it out of proportion, and CNN can pump it into our brains with the incorrect angles and the edited versions, like the Covington Kids videos, and then we can all get outraged as a country and further feed our mental illness. Great suggestion. I like that. Delay. Very, not to be confused with Delaney. Just delay.
Yeah, just delay. No N-E.
Wait and check. Wait and check with the person who was harassed to make sure that they are okay. Oh, so here we go. This is why we had to go through this list. This is what the guy at the front desk of the hotel did. He delayed. He let her get her head stomped in like 5 times. He closed the door and he locked it, and then he waited.
Yep.
Why did he get fired? He was following the 5 Ds.
Wait and check in with the person who was harassed to make sure that they are okay. Are you okay? Are you okay?
In moments where you don't speak the same language as the other person, just going to stand next to them to show that you're with them and that you're going to make sure they're okay and be safe can be a powerful move. Oh my God.
Okay, so give them a hug after they just got curb stomped. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Go pat them on the back after they're bleeding out of their mouth. The guy that's unconscious in the subway who got choked out by the black guy, just stroke his head, let him know that everything's okay. It's gonna be fine. We tried dropping our purse, it didn't work, so we're just gonna delay and pat you on the back.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. This is the fun part of the stream, by the way, guys. This is where we just make fun of the absolute retardation. This is an absolute joke.
I'm so glad that we're finally talking about this, because when I put it in the Google Doc and I how I labeled it, I was like, the 5 Ds of stopping racial harassment. It's an homage to the 5 Ds of dodgeball.
What are the 5 Ds of dodgeball? Dodge, dip, duck, dive, and
dodge.
And dodge again.
Dodge. Yeah, dodge again.
Hey, I haven't even seen that movie in so long.
I think that honestly, the 5 Ds of dodgeball would actually do really well with this article.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good point. They're definitely dodging the whole issue here. And finally, the last D of the 5 Ds, things you can do as you witness a racial harassment moment, is direct. The last option is to directly create a boundary by telling the person harassing to stop, and then turning your attention back to the person being harassed. May says, quote,
yeah, Sharkeisha, don't hit her.
Don't get into a back and forth with the person doing the harassing, which can escalate the incident, she says. Don't make it about them. Some examples of direct things you can say include, that's inappropriate, or leave them alone, or that's racist.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Screaming
racist.
That's racist to a person is definitely going to get them to stop. So when I witness fights or I witness some kind of stuff like this, it doesn't even have to be like racial. I just see like 2 bitches fighting in a parking lot. I will do this. I will like yell at them and just be like, "You're embarrassing yourself. What are you doing? Like, you're fighting in a public parking lot with this other woman." It worked once because I knew and plus the two chicks that I saw fighting, they were two whales. So I was like, I'm not going to get in between those two whales fighting, but I'm going to at least like try to snap them out of it and realize that they are super, super embarrassing. And it's really kind of stupid that they're fighting in a parking lot in front of a bar. Like, what is this? What world? While everybody's filming, I'm just sitting there like, stop it. You're embarrassing. Sharkeisha, don't hit her.
Synergy in chat says, demonetized, hard R. Yes, definitely a hard R dropped. That's fine. I'm not here for the money anyway. I'm here for you. That's you, the audience.
Yeah, we're here for you guys.
This is what happens when boys idolize Barbies instead of actual heroes who stand up for the weak, says Tyler in the YouTube chat. Okay, good point there. Yeah, I think so. We get guys who just sit back and drop their purses instead of acting. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they literally drop their purses because there's lots of guys carrying purses around now.
I mean, it's not a joke. That was a dead serious comment. I did hear a comment come in though. Finally, an adorable deplorable. I think this is okay. Sounds like it's going to be a good comment here.
Hey, what's going on? Weekly narrative, young degen lesbo. I get it. Amazing. Love the topic. This is Stereo's favorite deplorable gay Republican tuning in.
Nice.
Of course, I wouldn't miss a show called Leftism is a Mental Illness.
Hell yeah.
So is transgenderism. Okay, prove me wrong. Anyways, looking forward to the show, providing some nuggets of wisdom. Once again, this is the gay Republican, Stereo's only gay Hispanic millennial, son of an illegal immigrant, proud conservative Republican who voted for the greatest, most pro-LGBT president in American history, Donald J. Trump.
Hell yes. Actually, you know what's hilarious? I'm pretty sure I follow him on Instagram. So this is amazing. I'm so glad that you joined. Like, welcome. I'm the young degenerate lesbian, aka Delaney. What's up?
This is what conservative has turned into. Just a couple of gays on an app, just like being as gay as possible and being like, yeah, I love Trump.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. He is. Like, I agree. That's the reason I voted for him. He was way more pro-gay than Biden.
Let's see here. Well, if you missed it, we were talking about the 5 Ds of racial harassment, and we were evaluating the efficacy of delegating to a man, distracting, and I don't think they're going to work very well. That's all I'm going to say about that topic. I don't think that their strategies for stopping harassment will work. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Oh, this is the funniest story of the day. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We're ending it on a high note today. We like to have some laughs. This one everyone is going to love, especially the adorable deplorable, the gay Trump guy. This is a story from San Francisco, and it's directly relevant to our recent experience, Delaney, because we went to the movies last weekend. We saw Godzilla, right? And we made some comments on the Saturday stream about the propaganda, not only in the theaters themselves, but in the previews and the commercials, about how everything is so sterilized and COVID safe. There's a hand sanitizer station every 2 feet. Everyone's wearing masks, all that stuff. Everyone's, super cautious. And really what we were looking for to try and describe the phenomena that we were seeing is this article right here. This is the perfect representation of the type of people that we were talking about who go to the movies and they see these commercials of these people from the Cinemark theaters pressure washing the seats, and they're like, oh, thank heavens, yes, they pressure washed these seats before I sat in them. This is it.
Relief.
This guy is the epitome of soy, who writes for San Francisco Gate, of course. I mean, that's kind of a given there. But let me pull up the article here. There it is. What it's like to go to a movie theater in San Francisco for the first time in a year. Let's get into this. Let's jump into this article. Guys, you're going to love this one. Oh, my God. Look, and I'm just going to leave his soy face up there so you can look at that as we go through this stereo comment that just came in.
I mean, it's so funny because people are always like, how can you be gay and how can you be a Republican? It's pretty simple because I prefer policy over pandering. What do the Democrats do? They wave rainbow flags. They want to change government logos on websites to rainbow. They want to pass resolutions on the House floor saying, go Pride Month. I mean, if we want to take it real policy, we can take it back to Bill Clinton, who actually created Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the Defense of Marriage Act. So is the one president in modern history to actually roll back LGBT rights. Or we can take a look at Donald J. Trump, who was the first American president to go before the United Nations and call for the decriminalization of homosexuality, the first president to issue an executive order mandating the issuance of PrEP to the LGBT community, the first president to appoint an openly gay man, Richard Grenell, to his federal administration, the first president to allocate $78 million towards HIV/AIDS research and prevention. The list can go on and on, but again, so pro-bigoted and anti-LGBT. How about not?
Oh yeah, I
Boom.
love this guy. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I follow him on Instagram, and that's one of the reasons is because he's absolutely correct about all those things about Trump. But he's a bigot that hates gays.
I liked. I always enjoyed.
So stupid.
I always enjoyed going to protests and citing off those same exact facts to people, and then having to. I can hear the gears grinding in their heads as I was speaking them to them. Before we go on the article here, I know you're seeing the soy face, and you're like, man, I can't wait to hear about this guy's horrifying experience in a movie theater. I gotta do this comment from Tyler. He says, the 5 Ds of bad democracy, to follow up from our 5 Ds of stopping racial harassment. Number 1, dodge the real questions. Number 2, deny any facts or evidence. Number 3, dip when things are getting tough. Number 4, deliver false promises. And number 5, despise anyone who thinks differently. I love it. There you go. That's perfect 5 Ds of democracy.
5 Ds of bad democracy.
Of bad democracy.
Bad
yes,
democracy.
Yes.
That was a good one, Tyler.
All right, I did see another one came in from that guy. Well, let me go through a couple lines of this article, and then we'll jump back to him in the stereo comment here. Outside the AMC Metreon in Soma, I lock up my bicycle and swap my lightweight biking mask with a heavy-duty N95 inside mask. Jesus Christ.
God.
You should
He's got 2 different masks.
This guy wears a mask on a bike, people. This is, we're one sentence in, and we're already face-palming hard, right? From behind me, I hear a man singing Prince's Raspberry Beret. I turn and he says hello and flashes a smile, a welcome gesture, until I realize he isn't wearing a mask. If it isn't already clear, I'm on the neurotic side of average when it comes to COVID-19 precautions. I've been referred to as the COVID police by my internet commenters and family members alike, but I still dearly miss those carefree moments that we all took for granted pre-pandemic, like smiling at a stranger or going to a movie. Jesus Christ. I've embraced a hermit lifestyle the past year, but made a few work exceptions. This is one of them. Go ahead.
Wow. I was going to say, this guy should just stay a hermit, honestly. Like, you are the problem, friend.
I think by the end of the story, you're going to realize he got PTSD from going to the movies. It was a trauma for him. It was a really serious deal. Yeah. So, now we've got the frame. We understand what we're stepping into. Let me hit this comment from this guy here.
And you know what's so interesting? Because supposedly, I'm self-hating, self-deprecating, all of these things under the sun. Oh, forget Nazi, racist, bigoted. I'm sure both of you can agree, especially young Degen Lesbo. I have been bullied, harassed, and ostracized more for being a conservative Republican than I ever have for sucking dick. At most, conservatives will be like, hey, I don't agree with your lifestyle, but cool, let's go grab a beer and talk common sense, smart policy. That's it. I mean, yes, conservatives think that our lifestyle is a sin, but then again, they aren't the ones showing up with AR-15s mowing down gays at nightclubs in Florida. And again, which party wants to allow Muslim extremists into the country who are the real mass shooters? Certainly not conservative Republicans. But then again, gun control is racist. Change my mind.
Did they use AR-15s?
No, I agree with him on that.
I thought it was a full auto that they used. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been too long.
I mean, but no, that's exactly why I tended to. I mean, I was already kind of like more conservative leaning in my politics, anyways, before Trump and this last election. But when it came to like having conversations about politics with other gay people, not just in like my family but my friend circle, I me with just my ideas of like, I'm not for abortion, I'm for, closed borders, not closed borders, but a wall, for protecting our country and protecting the people of our country. That includes like blacks, whites, Asians, gays, lesbians, all of us. When you try to talk to those liberal leaning or the leftist leaning people about these things, they, like you said, they have a meltdown and they'll like call you every kind of ism or ist or, everything under the sun. But if you try to talk about it with conservative leaning people, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, you're a lesbian, but I don't really care about that. Like, at least like you have a brain and you actually like, want to have a conversation about it. So that's really why I kind of like leaned more onto the right side, because I could actually have decent conversation with these people as opposed to the people on the left who just are talking nothing but crazy and nonsense. And, they are pawns in the game of the global elite, and they're just willingly participants in it.
It's too boring. The left is so boring. You can't even think. You can't even.
Yeah.
There's no creativity. You can't do nothing. You just say the exact same lines over and over again. How boring. I mean, aside from whether their ideology is good or bad, it's so boring. It's got to be. Oh man, we got a new guy in chat. Let's jump to one from Craig.
Hey guys, I just started listening, and
What's up?
I just wanted to add that, the mantra from the establishment is trust the science. And my only thought is well, whose science are you trusting? Only the one you want to listen to, because of the thousands of doctors that say that wearing a mask all day and breathing in your own carbon dioxide is terrible for your body, is science they want to ignore. So it really is trust our science.
Mm-hmm.
Trust the narrative.
You are very much correct on that.
Trust the narrative and whatever supports the narrative, right? It's whatever we, pick and choose the quote-unquote experts that support our narrative, like Fauci or whatever, and then we roll with that. But we ignore the experts and the facts that go against what we want to portray as the narrative, like the fact that 80% of the people who you hospitalized from COVID are overweight. You've never heard Fauci say one time in over a year that people should lose weight, because that's the number one risk factor. Never once. But we don't want to talk about that anyway. Let's jump back into the article here. We're going to go back to our story of the man in AMC who was having a horrifying experience out in the real world for the first time in a year.
Super traumatic experience, apparently.
My first trip back to a theater for an assignment to review Godzilla vs. Kong on IMAX, a film that couldn't be done justice on my 39-inch flat screen. Ooh, wow. And is he trying to flex with a 39-inch? And also, I think it's funny that he has an assignment to review Godzilla vs. Kong. Jesus, bro. You think that's a real job? Is that a real job? Do you think that's a real job? I push open the mall doors.
To him, it is.
Unleash a spritz of homemade hand sanitizer and brace myself for the smell of commerce. Jesus. But the place looks empty, like a zombie might pop up from behind the counter. The only signs of life are food delivery drivers dutifully picking up meals. As someone who follows entertainment news for a living, I've been surprised not to hear of any super spreader events linked to theaters, which would be crippling to an already kneecapped industry. Yeah, see, this guy was already expecting super spreader event going into the theater. So he's wondering why he hasn't heard of any super spreader events. Yeah, exactly. Catastrophizing. Mental illness. A recent article in The Atlantic calls theaters a gray zone, citing several experts who say that since there's little talking, masks and distancing are effective. He did hours of research to see if theaters were safe before he went into them. Oh man, you can see him sweating over a dimly lit lamped desk with research papers strewn out that he printed up. Our theater's safe. I got an assignment. I don't want to go. I'm no sanitation scientist.
I would love to see this guy's reaction. I would love to see this guy's reaction when, if there actually was a physical invasion by some foreign army into this country. I would love to see this guy's reaction.
This is the guy that just suicides immediately.
He would be like, do you guys all have your COVID vaccine?
He says, I'm no sanitation scientist. I'd argue that hypochondria is more of an art. So that tells you where his brain is. Again, furthering the idea that he's mentally ill, because he's kind of flaunting the fact that he probably has hypochondria. But AMC's upgrades to air filtration sound quite reassuring. See? There it is. Boom, right there. I wasn't lying. We were watching the commercial of the ladies pressure washing the seats and all the commercials that they were showing you before the movie starts to reassure you. And we were making the joke that the people with mental illness would go into theaters and say to themselves, oh, I feel safe. I'm reassured now. And this guy is saying it in plain English. Right there, he's saying that their upgrades to air filtration sound reassuring. This guy is the epitome of mental illness. These are the people that are telling you how to live your life. These are the people telling you that your economy should be locked down, telling you that you can't go to the gym, you can't open your restaurant, that your family business that you've worked for decades to keep open should close and die because he feels unsafe. This is the guy. Look at that face. Look at that soy-infused face. That's the guy that's controlling your life, okay?
Yeah.
We got a couple of
he's so delusional that he can't even like take a normal picture without the mask on. He has to have the mask on for a picture.
No, underneath that mask, he's doing the soy face, which is, of course, the... if you could see my soy face impression on the stream. Let's jump to this comment from Craig. He's got a follow-up.
Yeah, you should see the faces that I get, the confused looks, when I tell them that I read a study from the CDC, because, the CDC is their god.
Yeah.
That said, I think it was 52% of the people who contracted COVID actually were mask wearers.
Right?
Yep, and
didn't the CDC... I was going to say, didn't the CDC also come out and say that wearing a mask only reduces your chance of catching COVID by like 1.3% or something like that?
I can't remember the actual statistics, but they did studies on the cities that had mask mandates, and they found that they were marginally effective. But there's a lot of science and studies that they don't talk about, like the amount of cases that are completely... You remember this? They used to talk about this, just like we used to talk about the R0. We don't talk about that anymore. We used to talk about the asymptomatic cases. They're used to say 70 to 80% of all COVID infections are asymptomatic, which means you don't even know you have it. It's so mild, you don't even know you have it. When was the last time you heard anything about asymptomatic cases or asymptomatic spread? Nothing, because they don't want you to remember the fact that, 70% of the time, people who have COVID, they're just going to be normal. They won't even know. Completely asymptomatic. So yeah, they're very selective in what they talk about as far as the facts. And if you focus on the wrong facts, well, that makes you a Nazi. So let's continue on with the article here. It just gets better. I wait in line for a couple minutes behind a dozen people, standing 6 feet apart, of course. 20 minutes on my bike meant my mouth really wanted a soda, but as I think more about shoveling popcorn past my virgin white mask, I feel the same tingle of panic I get from watching big crowds in TV shows. Yes, folks, I wasn't editorializing that. He wrote down, I feel the same tingle of panic. Okay. Standing in line to get a soda. He's standing in line to get a soda, and the thought of taking off his mask to put in popcorn in his mouth fills him with panic. And so he says, so no Pepsi for me. My year-long streak without scanning a QR code remains unbroken. Jesus. A family of 4 walks up to the ticket taker and essentially uses the prominently displayed hand sanitizer dispenser as a shower head, bathing in disinfectant. I let out an audible sigh of relief and follow suit, then find a spot in the back row. Are you kidding me with this? Is this article a joke? I can't even tell. I let out an audible sigh of relief. A sigh of relief as I watched a family bathe themselves in sanitizer. This is what San Francisco is, people. This guy is not an anomaly in San Francisco. This is what everybody is like in San Francisco. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is the norm in San Francisco. This is the people running the city and voting for Nancy Pelosi.
Seats are clustered far enough apart to feel safe. See? To feel safe. But close enough so that I can eavesdrop. Teenagers insulting each other never sounded so good, but the crunch of popcorn echoing the distance causes a true fight or flight response moment. Jesus. Teenagers insulting each other never sounded so good, but the crunch of popcorn echoing in the distance causes a true fight or flight moment. Are you comprehending what I am reading to you? Audience, this guy is talking about panicking because of eating popcorn, having a fight or flight response because somebody else in another row in the movie theater is eating popcorn because they had to take their mask off to eat the popcorn. Oh, man. He says, I'm not yet vaccinated, but 46% of the city has had one shot, including my roommate. who's the only person I see without a mask. The lights fall and the heavy bass from Kong's roar hits my chest. It is the first time in a year that I really felt sound. I'd love to tell you that I melted into my chair in relaxation for the next 2 hours, but my body tensed up to the point that both of my arms literally fell asleep. As one might expect, the fight scenes between Godzilla and Kong are best experienced on IMAX. But what I didn't expect was how much I enjoyed seeing a human face projected on a 16-meter screen. Blah, 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 blah. Is Godzilla vs. Kong a good movie? Maybe. He didn't even do his job. He got an assignment to go review Godzilla vs. Kong, and he was so panicked and thinking about hand sanitizer and people not wearing masks that he couldn't even review the movie.
Wow.
Was I nervous the whole time? Definitely, he says. And then he says,
did I have fun? Yes.
Would I do it again? It's complicated, he says. Oh my God. So there you go, people. These are the people who are telling you to double mask. These are the people, again, I don't need to go through the whole list, telling you to close your businesses, telling you to lock down. It's this guy. He panics when he hears the sound of popcorn. That's the guy. So just keep that in mind as you... This guy's
got serious mental issues. Like, he really, he needs to go to see a, therapist stat if he's allowing himself to be traumatized by people having fun and enjoying themselves at a movie theater.
Well, he does have mental illness, but it's not special. It's everyone that he agrees with, everyone that he talks to, all of his business associates, everyone that he knows thinks the exact same way. So that's San Francisco for you. And that's exactly why he has to step over human feces and needles to get to where he wants to go, because it's not fair. It's not safe to arrest homeless people, arrest people who do crimes. It all falls under the same umbrella of leftism, which is a mental illness, which is the entire point of the stream tonight. So I hope we kind of illustrated that point by giving you an array of different stories. And before we wrap it up, we got a few comments that came in on stereo. Delaney, you want to hit one of those while I go through the YouTube comments here?
Okay. We got one from Osis in YouTube. Let me play that if I can. Hold on. Pause, folks. Pause. Jeez.
Have a good night, Dave. See you.
Hold on. There we go.
Not everyone is like that in San Francisco. Most of these people aren't even from San Francisco. I was born and raised here, and a lot of me and my friends that are locals anyway didn't really buy into this BS. San Francisco's been overrun by a bunch of ultra left-wing transplants from all over the country. Basically destroyed the city and the state.
I agree.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I'm being
Osis.
hyperbolic.
I agree. Yeah, we're not being literal. We know that not everybody in San Francisco is like this. I mean, I'm born and raised here in California, and there's definitely, he's right about that. There's been a lot of transplants who've come in and just destroyed the entire state.
It's the metropolitans.
It sucks because
that's what it is. It's the metropolitans who move in from other cities, and they think they're people of the world, and they all fall under the same ideology.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another one from Adorable Deplorable.
Since you're talking about masks, I figured I would bless you with a poetic comment in honor of our dearly beloved yet canceled Dr. Seuss. I will not wear it on my face. I will not wear it any place. I will not wear it to get in. I just might wear it on my chin. I will not wear it on my ear. I will certainly not wear it out of fear. I will not wear your stupid mask. I will not wear it, so don't fucking ask.
Oh, that was
finale.
clever. I like this guy even more.
That was good. All right.
That's pretty.
Well played, sir. Well played. We got a follow-up from Craig here.
This author is in the front of the line to join the brown shirts for sure.
Well, this is the same guy. Yeah, he's reporting people he doesn't see wearing masks. Anyone who doesn't comply, he's writing down their names and he's sketching their faces and yeah.
Well, I mean, he said it at the very beginning of the article. He said that like even his friends describe him as, what did he say?
Oh, that's right, the mask
the
police.
COVID police.
Yes.
Yeah, the
No, he's
COVID
right.
police.
He's
So
fully
yeah, I
admits
think
he's a
you're right
brown
about
shirt.
that, Craig.
Yep, fully admits. Synergy in the YouTube chat says, people like this make me agree with bin Laden. The society is so...
Oh, no.
I think he's meant to say effeminate, indulgent, and weak. It needs to be destroyed. Black pill. Hey. Not to say that's the entire theme of our channel, but it may or may not be the entire theme of our channel. That we're in a cyclical, we're in a cycle of civilizational destruction and recreation, and we may be on the downturn towards destruction at this point in time. But you know, if you just talk about that all day and you just say that directly, you don't get a lot of viewers, because it turns out people don't want to hear about the fact that civilization's crumbling before their feet, before their eyes, every single day, even though that's basically what we're talking about. Dari says he tripped on an empty popcorn bucket in the aisle and had to change his panties.
Right?
Probably.
Can't, like, poor thing. Like I wish I could feel bad for this person. I really do. To live your life and be afraid of just everything like that. Why do you even leave your house? Like, that's like borderline agoraphobia right there, dude. Like, why do you even leave your house if you're going to sit there and be afraid of people just outside having fun, enjoying life, and you know,
it's very
continuing to do stuff.
Very easy to explain, Delaney. It's because there's too much risk involved, and when your entire personality is dominated by feminine personalities, you have no risk tolerance. You are completely 100% risk averse. If there's even a slight chance, even COVID is 0.001% chance of dying. If there's even a slight chance, we have to lock the entire state down, Delaney. We have to take every precaution possible to ensure maximum safety, because that is what I value overall. One more. We got a new one from Layla, and then we'll wrap it up after that.
Okay. Want me to play it, or you want to play it?
I'll hit it.
I agree. I think rightism is also a mental illness. Who's the QAnon leader? Do you guys know?
That's bait.
No, because I don't care enough about QAnon.
No, yeah, well, I think the whole entire political spectrum in and of itself is designed to funnel people into a mental illness. So I'm not sure if he was trying to troll by saying that we're on the right, and that, you know, saying the counter of left is mental illness. But joke's on you, because we agree. Any participation in the traditional political spectrum, to me, is basically mental illness, because, I mean, it's designed to funnel you into predetermined outcomes, designed to limit your thought, designed to channel particular thought patterns, and it's all mental illness. I think we could all make the argument for that, and I think we have actually in the past with scientific data, by the way, mind you, because we're very pro-science here at this channel. We're on the right, in case you were curious. We are alt-centrists. If you're curious about learning about more what alt-centrism is, you can listen to our podcast, available on Stitcher, Google, and iTunes. This is the Alt-Centrist live stream that happens every Tuesday and Saturday at 7 p.m. on YouTube and stereo, so you can listen or watch, your preference. And the idea here is that we espouse the ideology of alt-centrism while interacting with the traditional political spectrum on the right and left, because that's how, that's what 99% of the population is in. So we have to communicate in those terms, even though we do not follow or agree with that spectrum. And as far as
I was going to say, we're here to document the downfall of society. So, on both sides. Both sides are contributing to it immensely. But it's just easier to talk about the left. So if you are a part of the left and, you have a counter to that, then we're willing to hear it.
I'll wrap it up with this comment, because people may be asking the question, Jeremy, why do you always, even though you call yourself an alt-centrist, why do you always dog on the left? I'll explain to you very succinctly. The left is the one who controls all of the institutions in America right now. The left is the ones who are in power. The conservatives have zero power. The conservatives do not control the colleges. The conservatives do not control the media companies. The conservatives do not control the corporations. The conservatives don't control anything. They have no power. They are not the ones creating new ideas and propagating these quote-unquote progressive ideologies and spreading them throughout the socio-political sphere. It's the left. So we punch up. We don't punch down. Plus, there's really nothing on the right that's being done that's noteworthy anyway. So if don't get it wrong. If they were the ones doing all this, we'd be criticizing them just as much. But you got to punch up and you got to focus on the people who do have the power, which just right now happens to be the left. So there you go. Succinct, short, easy answer.
They run. Yep. I mean, way more eloquent than I can say. I just say it's easier to attack the left, but you are a lot more thorough with it. I'd say it's easy because, like you said, they're the ones in control of everything. They control technology. They control media. They control the schools. They control the government now. So, yeah, big tech is controlled by the left as well. So it's easier to attribute these things to them because guess what? They're the ones in control. They're the ones that are trying to control us. So yeah, why not talk about these things?
Yep, as Anthony says in the YouTube chat, the narrative. That is the one thing. I mean, they control the universities and the big tech and the media outlets because they want to control one thing, and that is the narrative, which is why this channel is called The Weekly Narrative. So if you guys enjoyed today's stream, which was 2 hours and 22 minutes, these stereo streams are getting a lot longer. We're going a lot longer with these. We love the participation. We want you guys to ask questions. We actually prefer disagreement. We want debate. We prefer that over agreement because it's much more fun, and we're here to think out loud. If you like thinking out loud and you like talking about ideas in a more than black and white manner, catch us here every Tuesday and Saturday, 7 p.m. PST. Did you have fun today, Delaney?
Oh, I always have fun with you, Jeremy. It's always a blast. And thank you to everybody that showed up tonight. And it was I'm really like starstruck that the Gay Republican joined the stream because, like I said, I follow him on Instagram and I've been a fan of his. And he's one of the reasons that I, have been more vocal about my political leanings as a lesbian in California that is a registered Republican. Yeah, so it's nice that I have like my own celebrity in the stereo tonight.
Well, make sure
you should give us a follow on YouTube.
Yeah, you can follow his account and you can probably do a little live stream with him maybe. All right, guys, we'll see you on Saturday. Thanks for watching.
Yep, 9